We will wait for some 2 to 3 minutes, madam.
Just 2 minutes, maybe, yes.
Yeah.
By 2:40 we'll start.
2:40 will start.
Yes.
Okay, one thing is that the consultancy forum is a main one of the important stakeholder in IAF 𝐒𝐮𝐲𝐬 infrastructure. What do
Good evening to all. Happy World Accreditation Day. So as you all aware that June 9th is celebrated as World Accreditation Day. And this year, 2023 marks a global initiative, it is a global initiative established by 𝐒𝐮𝐲 and IAF to promote the value of accreditation. This year's theme, accreditation, supporting the future of global trade, focuses on how accreditation supports the United Nations SDGs, that is Sustainable Development Goals, particularly SDG 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 9, 10, 14, and 17. So the theme of World Accreditation Day 2023 has been selected to demonstrate how national and global quality infrastructures are adapting to advances in technology, changes in the consumer behaviors and the regulatory environment, new trust mechanisms, and changing business models. While standards and accreditation have had a positive impact on trade, both within and across borders, there is a need for continued evolution to meet changing industry requirements and to support our future trading systems. So with that in background, Consortium Consultants of Chennai has been celebrating World Accreditation Day right from the inception of our association. And we warmly welcome all the panelists who are here, eminent speakers from various bodies, and also our respected audience who are all from different domains and experts who have accepted our invitation and registered for this program and logged in today for this to hear all the wonderful thoughts which is going to be shared by our panelists today. And before going into the session, let me present a short presentation about brief introduction about CCC. Just hold on. I hope the screen is visible, madam.
Yes, sir, visible. So
Consultants Consortium of Chennai is registered under Societies Act, Tamil Nadu. It's basically an association formed by a group of like-minded management system consultants and located at Chennai city in Tamil Nadu, India. It's a forum for management system consultants and other allied consultants, sector agnostic consultants connected to MSMEs segment offering diverse range of services. Our association works closely with industry platforms, and our governing council members comprise of senior business consultants with many years of connect with the industry. And our objective is to promote excellence, professional competency, and ethics in the profession of management systems consulting. To ensure service of quality and value is important in the industry of management consulting by disseminating knowledge, providing ongoing education, learning opportunities, and monitoring mechanisms, and to provide skilled and competent consultants to industry bodies, and to disseminate and strengthen the knowledge of consultants in connection with the profession of the and the industry, and to standardize the consulting practices among the members of the association, to develop, educate, enforce, and administer a code of professional conduct, discipline, ethics, and etiquette for the members of the association and the consultants, and to focus on industry education, promoting quality as a part of national quality mission, to promote various management system standards that are needed for the business across the sectors, and to be the representative voice of management system consulting community, to focus on knowledge dissemination to the industry on an ongoing basis about standards, certifications, accreditations, inspections, regulations, etc. And our primary members, as I already told you, is our management system consultants, and our allied members are technical consultants, regulatory consultants, sector specific domain consultants, technology consultants, health and safety consultants, risk management consultants, marketing and branding consultants, and other allied consultants, industry bodies and corporate entities. And our aspirations are to encourage more consultants become members of this association and lead industry engagements, and to strengthen the voice of CCC across southern region in other states too, and to be the representative voice in some of the state government's initiatives, to educate industry to choose responsibly quality certifications, to focus on upskilling youth to think, dream, breathe quality in their career path, to create good quality ecosystem. Dream to be part of the international network and representative platforms. Thank you very much for that brief introduction about our association. And now I warmly welcome Dr. B.K. Rana for sharing his thought process on voice of accreditation body, future of trends, and how our accreditation can help. And let me introduce Dr. B.K. Rana with a small introduction about his profile. So Dr. Rana holds a PhD in biochemistry, diploma in German, and a postgraduate diploma in hospital and health management. And he is a board member of the International Society for Quality in Healthcare, ISQA, and Asian Society for Quality in Healthcare, and served as a chairman of ISQA and founding member of the International Academy of Quality and Safety, IAQS. International consultant and expert for the World Health Organization, World Bank, Asian Development Bank, USAID, ISQA, UNFCCC, that is United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, and 𝐓𝐨𝐩𝐲, which is a German corporation for international cooperation, and several other national and international organizations. Also founding member of Scientific Advisory Board of International Alliance of Patients Organizations, IAPO, London, United Kingdom. He is an expert in establishing healthcare accreditation body, laboratory accreditation body, implementing quality management systems, accreditation requirements, and standard development in the field of quality improvement and patient safety. Passionate about doing different things differently, which keeps him motivated to innovate and create new standards and programs. So now over to you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you very much for a kind introduction. And thank you, CCC, for having me here, specifically. And thanks to Rama Madam for having me here today. And wishing all our panelists and viewers a very happy World Accreditation Day. And I would say congratulations, everyone, because this is something very unique, which started long back. But my thinking is that we should not just stick to 9th of June to celebrate World Accreditation Day. I think this should be celebrated each and every day, 365 days a year. And else we will just celebrate and forget about it. Will not get into the intent of the World Accreditation Day. So thank you so much. And the topic is very, very critical and very complex and very difficult as well, particularly for a person like me, a very, very new person in area of getting into the field of accreditation. Complexity is too much because it covers everything. It's not, if you say, talk about one specific sector, easy, but when you say future of trade and how accreditation can help, and you have to take care of everything around. So I thought to have certain basics things also to create awareness around it. I know it is all of you experts here know about it, but many of our participants may not be knowing about it. So I thought to include some of the slides on some of the basics. So start with the organization I come from, QAI, Quality and Accreditation Institute, which actually is a very young organization. It started off as an accreditation organization in 2017. And currently we have 4 verticals: and Center for Education and Training for imparting education and training activities, Center for Accreditation of Health and Social Care, which is actually as an accreditation center for healthcare, and Center for Lab Accreditation for laboratory accreditation using ISO standards, and Center for Accreditation of Veterinary Facilities. And this is very unique. Again, we developed accreditation standards for veterinary hospitals and clinics for the first time in India. And I think we are the, third accreditation body globally having these standards for veterinary clinics and hospitals. So I'll touch upon on certain things what we do, and then link up how we can really support global trade. So Center for Laboratory Accreditation is primarily having 5 programs. 4 programs are basically based on ISO international standards as globally being used for medical laboratories, ISO 15189, testing laboratories and calibration laboratories, ISO IC 17025. And we also have a program for recognizing medical lab based on clinical establishment requirement, which prescribes minimum requirements for medical labs. And we feel that there is a long gap. These labs cannot think about ISO 15189 when they don't have even basic infrastructure in place. And unfortunately, many states do not have Clinical Establishment Act in place. Only few states had adopted coming from the center. So we thought to have a program based on these standards, but added some of the requirement for quality improvement into these standards. And we have a unique program for accreditation of biobanking based on ISO 20387, which is published first time in 2018, a new standard from ISO. Now it is also included into MRA by ILAC. So when we started in 2021, we were the first in India, and we were the third AB after A2LA in US and CNAS in China in whole of Asia Pacific. And we're really proud of that to start this program, because this is ongoing, is a new upcoming program. And we got a lot of interest from both government and private biobank in India. And I'll touch upon this later, how it is connected to global trade. We are full member or MRA signatory for APAC for medical testing lab 15189 and testing ISO 17025 active October 2022. And then we subsequently sign MRA, become full member of ILAC for both medical and testing programs under 17025 and 15189. And that's what we have been talking about, global recognition and global equivalence. And that's how we really talk about how the equivalence is accepted globally, and how the accreditation can help in moving things here and there. Then Center for Accreditation of Health and Social Care. This is important again, because I know this World Accreditation Day is celebrated by ISO community mostly, and it started off by ILAC and IAF. But accreditation in healthcare is not just limited to medical laboratories. It's gone beyond that dimension. Medical laboratory is a very small component of that. If you look at the healthcare vertical, is big hospitals, primary centers, and different types of healthcare facilities all contribute to the patient health and well-being and the community of that country. And therefore, it is very important to include. And I thought when we already have this program to share with the viewers also, that how the healthcare accreditation also contributed to global trade is not different than what we are doing in ISO world. So in healthcare, we actually takes care of the complete ecosystem of healthcare verticals, starting from having an accreditation program for clinic, and then for ambulatory care, which is like for dental centers, small eye centers, imaging centers, then complete hospital, small hospital or big hospitals, whatever way you like to see. Home healthcare, this is again a very unique program which we have developed in 2018, even before pandemic. And pandemic actually has made people aware of what home healthcare is. But when we developed these standards for accreditation, people were literally laughing on me particularly. That what you're developing for home care, this nothing exists. But now everybody, I guess, understand what home healthcare is. We also have a program for transition care, which is called as out of hospital care. I mean, patient come out of the hospital, don't go home, but it stays in a center which provides care to them after coming out of the hospitals. We have a telehealth accreditation program. We have hotels and homestays accreditation program, specific program for dialysis centers, IVF centers. So IVF center was our first disease-specific accreditation program in India, because infertility is also a disease as per WHO definition. So this was first disease-specific, then specialized emergency department. Green healthcare facility program is for particularly for sustainability, resilience in reducing the carbon footprint. This is again a new area nowadays, patient safety. And the latest program is on stroke Stroke is a second disease-specific program QI had developed. So this is everything like clinic, hospital, out of hospital, or even anywhere you have, you can have take that consultation through telehealth. So we cover all this, the whole of the vertical. Now, how accreditation is actually linked with healthcare, and particularly the sustainable goals, SDG 3, which is for health, and sub-goal 3.8, which is universal health coverage. Universal health coverage is when providing healthcare, quality healthcare, which is affordable and accessible to the community and the citizen of the country. And so accessibility is okay when you can offer it. Affordability is also, but the third component, I call it USC, a three-legged stool. The quality is the third leg. If you don't have this third leg, you won't be able to stable, you will fall down. So this quality, which actually comes through accreditation process. So accreditation is one of the key, one of the drivers to get the quality. There may be another way of tools to achieve quality, but accreditation is one of the most common and important tool which has been used in particularly in healthcare for achieving quality. So this is how accreditation, USC, and sustainable development goals are connected. In healthcare also, like I mentioned, for our lab program recognized under ILAC. So similarly, our program for accreditation in healthcare is internationally recognized by International Society for Quality Healthcare, 𝐓𝐨𝐲𝐢𝐜, External Evaluation Association. So this is a global organization which recognizes the different accreditation body globally and creates an environment like ILAC MRA, equivalent like that. So we can consider. We are also international member of 𝐓𝐶OAN, International Society for Telemedicine and e-health board membership. This is our mark of accreditation for mark of sustained quality, which an accredited facility can use to demonstrate their commitment and significance. Now, coming to the topic on accreditation supporting the future of global trade. So this is the theme of 2023 World Accreditation Day. So what is trade? Many times, many people may not understand, except some, because sometimes only the products are considered as a trade, but it's not. Trade involves the transfer of goods and services, and goods include different products, of course, from one person or entity to another, often in exchange of money. So there is a commerce involved as well. So it's an exchange of goods and services both. It's not just a product or good, but services as well. And in healthcare, when we talk about is the services rather than more on the good side. And of course, the World Trade Organization. And I remember my journey to quality when I entered into 1999, joining NAWL, and say the history about why accreditation programs set up globally. And then the WTA roles comes in. And I remember that we used to talk about technical barriers to trade. Why this should exist. So World Trade Organization brought technical barrier to trade. It means there were some recognized barriers to trade, and those are technical barriers. Like we export something from one country to another country, it is tested, verified as per the requirements of the importer, but when it reaches the shore of importing country, it is rejected because it does not conform to the product requirement of the importing country. So why it happened? Perhaps there is no agreement between two laboratories which are testing these products. So this creates a problem, and then how to solve this issue to remove that technical barriers. And removing technical barriers is basically maybe use of standardization, use of standards, and one of the ways sort of accreditation. So WTO TBT led to encouraging journey of accreditation program globally. And of course, when it started off, then mutual recognition arrangement comes in. That how the programs across the globe can be recognized, mutually recognized under an arrangement. And these arrangements are now are actually started off by ILAC and IAF, and then brought down to the level of different cooperation, regional cooperations. Like we come under APAC, Asia Pacific Accreditation Cooperation. There are 5 regional cooperation: APAC, EA, European Accreditation Cooperation, then Arab Regional Accreditation Cooperation, then AFRAC in African region, and IAC, Inter-American Accreditation Cooperation. So 5 regional cooperation exist which got linked to ILAC and IAF. So this is how things started off to remove technical barriers to free flow of goods and services across the boundaries in the globe. And then use of the standards. Of course, when we talk about accreditation, the standards is one of the key components. because we use standards for granting accreditation or use standards to check compliance to specific standards requirement by an entity. And standards help to harmonize conformity assessment activities across the board. So now the word comes conformity assessment. What conformity assessment means basically is something which is to conforming to the requirements which are stated either for service or goods. And then comes to different angles that how things move from one place to another place on stated grounds. And basically it helps in reducing the need for duplication and reducing the need for duplicating conformity assessment activity. For example, testing when reporting or exporting goods. Why person should be testing again and again when it has been tested in a system which is mutually agreed, acceptable, with demonstrable compliance, credibility, and recognition. So key factor in increasing the efficiency and scale for global trade. So conformity assessment activities actually help in increasing the efficiencies and also scaling up for global trade. Of course, regulators and governments are key contributors to that, key users as well, and also this ecosystem, part of ecosystem to recognize and use the conformity assessment ecosystem to facilitate the trade. And we keep saying that regulators should be relying on accreditation, because accreditation provides a beautiful mechanism to regulators for reliance to ensure that what they are looking for, they are in place. So accreditation is just not only to look at the standards, which are, they can also add some of the regulatory requirements if they are not a part of regulation as it is. Some regulators specify just to conforming to a specific standards, so that's taken care of. But in addition to a standard or a technical standard or a specification, if regulator has certain requirements, then can also be made a part of accreditation program. So it's a good thing to talk about that, how regulators can rely on accreditation. So how accreditation can help? And when we talk about accreditation, we talk about conformity assessment. And some of the basics for everyone is, what is conformity assessment? Basically a process to demonstrate whether a product, service, process, claim, system, or person is, there are person as well, person certification is also there, meets the relevant requirements. And what are those relevant requirements are? They are stated somewhere. And where they are stated somewhere in the contracts, on programs, or any standards or a documents or a regulation. You can define all these things in those things. So everything falls into the requirement of conformity assessment. Then comes the conformity assessment activities. What are those CA activities? Testing, calibration, inspection, certification, biobanking. This is the new one I just added up. I just last year added into MRA. I started off just 2 years back. So these are all conformity assessment activities and who are involved in these CA activities. They are conformity assessment bodies. We call CABs, CABs. What are those? Labs, inspection bodies, certification bodies, biobanks, for example. So these are CABs who are engaged into conformity assessment activities for conducting conformity assessment, which leads to accreditation by demonstrating their compliance to specific standards for compliance to requirements. So if we talk about healthcare, for example, and healthcare, I would include medical labs for time being at the moment, how it helps in global trade. So people know about medical tourism. It's a very old term, but now the current term is medical value travel, wherein a patient moves from one country to another country for treatment. And alongside treatment, the person can also enjoy some touristic activities in that part of the world. But primarily, why patients move from one country to another country for a couple of reasons. One, they don't have that medical service available in their own country. Or they don't have the quality they are looking for. Right? So they move to another country. When they move to another country, they look for which hospital or a facility they should go for treatment. Right? What is the criteria they should look for? So either they look for some reviews available on the internet, or there are recognized arrangement between governments within two countries to exchange patients for treatment, or they look for them themselves and they say, oh, is something recognized? Okay, so in healthcare, it's quite long that there is a healthcare accreditation system existing for many years. It started more than 70 years ago in the United States for the first time. 1935, I'm talking about 1935 started off. So there's the history of healthcare accreditation. It is even beyond and older than what in real ISO conformity assessment exists. So people travel, and based on that, and we started now in last couple of years, we started saying that patients choose a hospital based on accreditation, because accreditation gives an assurance that hospital is good compared to other hospitals, because they have demonstrated the compliance to standard for accreditation. And this is a good tool. And now many insurance agencies, even national governments, are relying on accreditation for medical value travel. And government of India is now, you may all heard of 𝐓𝐿 in India. 𝐓𝐿 in India is a government of India initiative, and our Honorable Prime Minister, Mr. Modi, actually his vision is of 𝐓𝐿 in India, 𝐓𝐿 by India also. So 𝐓𝐿 in India is an initiative of Indian government to promote our resources of medical facilities to provide care to people from outside country. And then overseas employment is another factor. When people move from one country to another for employment, they need to undergo the medical examination, medical checkup. This helps you. If you undergo in a hospital which is accredited, the reports are acceptable, or can be acceptable, may be acceptable. This system exists, and we have seen a good examples when this is happening. Immigration, when people migrate permanently from one country to another country, they have to undergo a lot of medical examination, again, for that purpose. That helps understand the requirements of the country. And there are healthcare organizations actually have tie-up with different countries to do the service for them. Institutional and national government collaboration. There are government collaboration of different countries where to promote that, okay, we have this program existing, can we tie up, we can collaborate on this, on exchange of ideas or exchange of or on the facilities, learning, capacity building, etc. Research and development is another way where we have seen there are hospitals collaborating for R&D, for generating a lot of research, having a lot of research, clinical research going on, where a multi-sectoral or multi-locational research going on in different parts of the world on some topics to ensure patient safety and associated activity. And of course, last but not the least, funding and investment opportunity. Accreditation is playing a huge role in this investment opportunities. And as we have seen in our own programs, particularly in IVF program, we have seen that IVF providers getting funding based on accreditation. And when they are thinking about selling off their businesses or selling off some of the stakes, the investor asks for accreditation. Investor asks for credibility, and they demonstrate credibility based on accreditation. I have seen myself within QAI, couple of our existing clients in IVF and potential clients asking our information, how we can support them in this. So this is now a fact that investors are looking for some credible source of information, credibility of organization, we told. So this is how accreditation is helping in this area. This is nothing but the global trade. It's foreigners coming and investing. Now, under typical CABs, conformity assessment bodies, under ISO system, basically, of course, import export to avoiding or reducing redoing. If we can't do completely avoidance, but how we can reduce redoing, why retesting? Why do this? Why do this? If we have a system already in place for demonstrating equivalence and compliances, health and safety of people, both goods and services. And that is the global agenda, how we make sure that health and safety of people of the global community, not just one Indian community or American or Australian or UK. No, it's a global community. We are talking about, and now we know our G20 presidency of India, this 2023, is all these agenda on health and safety and many other things, how we can, one health, one nation, all these things is globalization, how we can really support the governments and G20 countries in making it happen. And again, institutional arrangements between government collaborations going on, bilateral, multilateral arrangements going on, supply of biological material. And I will give a specific example for biobanking sector, which is emerging, particularly after the COVID-19 pandemic. A lot of research going on for developing drugs, vaccines for COVID, and also other drugs. And biobanks plays a huge role, because biobanking is something like they bank, they store and the biological material and associated data for the research and development purpose. So scientists can, or companies can just get a biological material with all the information associated. They need not to go back and do everything, testing, collaboration, and benchmarking, nothing. They can start from them. They save a lot of time, years of time for characterizing a system. They already get everything done. And so accreditation plays a huge role. Now we get requests from biobank within India and outside India. Are you providing services for accreditation as per 20387? Because we are looking for supplying this material not only within India but globally. So they're getting funding to set up biobank. So this is a huge potential for, particularly for a country like India, who have a lot of samples already. Non-communicable disease, diabetes, hypertension, a lot of research going on, and biobanks are being set up. This is a great example for contributing to global trade through accreditation. Of course, regulatory compliance of other countries. I was just mentioning before the start of this, we have just come across a request from a lab who is looking for doing business for US market, and under the Environmental Protection Agency of US, who has to approve in a lab under a scheme of called third-party certifiers. And these labs to be accredited under 17025 and to be inspected by under a specific system as per 17020. But they approve accreditation bodies within the United States as well as outside. So same scheme applicable for AB within the United States and outside the United States. So that's a harmonization. The only thing as an outside US AB, they have to provide a contact within the United States if something is to be communicated. But otherwise, there will be a contact, permanent contact with the AB overseas. So say, for example, we have applied for this scheme based on the request we received. So this is again, and this scheme says very clearly, this says the AB who is interested to get this approval should be recognized under ILAC MRA as per 17011 or any other regional MRAs like APAC, of course, under 17011. And the lab they grant accreditation to should be as per 17025. And the inspection agency, if they are as an inspection agency, also they are accrediting inspection agencies, that should be as per 1720. So it's very clearly defined procedure and the process for getting things done. So I think this is another example for free flow trade from one country to another country, how a lab from one country can provide service to another country and vice versa. So I think these are some of the thoughts I thought to put in, not much going into detail because it's a very complex area. But in summary, what I would like to put forward is that this accreditation ecosystem can help definitely in global trade. It is already established. But in summary, I would say it's connect people. It connect buyer and seller of goods and services. That's the best thing I can say. How you know what's happening in one part of the world? I don't know anything. Only I go to the internet and I try to find out from Dr. Google, that's what's going on. But if we have a system existing, and then thanks to ILAC and IAF and regional cooperation, which have established system, and also the countries within countries having a system, like we have Indian government had put some system in place where listed out accredited conformity assessment bodies, accredited MRA bodies, ABs under ILAC, APAC, or IAF. So I think they can, and if we can provide this connection to the consumers and the users, basically, that's what actually we have to look for, how we connect so that they get quick connection between buyer and seller. And of course, it's really impact development of the nations and societies and communities. We cannot neglect it. And then we maybe as a CAB or a conformity assessment or a AB, we just look at a very micro level things. But if you look at the macro level things, the end user is somewhere is a consumer or a patient in healthcare, and that impact the community, then impact the society, and in turn the nation and the globe. And then of course it support different sectors directly, indirectly. We may just talk about only manufacturing sector, say for example, or aviation sector, but it does not restrict to aviation sector. It goes beyond that. It goes to all other sectors which is connected to aviation sector or a specific sector. So it's a multi-dimensional, multi-sectorial approach which really impact everyone. And last but not least, support relevant UN SSDs. And like Mr. Ramkumar was mentioning, 1, 3, 4, 5, 7, then 17 at the global partnership of United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. It really helps in connecting those we cannot deny that. So I think I had my time up for that. And thank you once again, CCC, for giving me this opportunity to share. Some of my thoughts may not be very relevant for many of you, but I thought this may be relevant to give you some of first insight and maybe little deeper insights. And we can look forward for some other session to go deeper and deeper into it. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. B.K. Rana, for that wonderful presentation and also sharing your thought process on various aspects of accreditation. And in fact, I think all the audience would have been really benefited out of what all information you have shared. Definitely, it is going to be helpful for all of us, particularly the technical barriers to the trade and also the mutual recognition arrangements that what you harped on, and also about the conformity assessment. That's one of the important aspects which you have touched upon is conformity assessment and the conformity assessment bodies, CABs. And really, I think like me, many of the audience also would have been very new to hear about the word biobanking. And really, it's a very new terminology that I learned, especially in your presentation. And in fact, one of the audience also have asked a question about highlight more on biobanking. Maybe at the end of the session, maybe we'll have the question and answer session devoted for that purpose. I think the challenge is to equate the business with the world trade requirements. That is going to be the biggest challenge. And one more thing which was very really informative was the investors who are the stakeholders in healthcare sector. It's a new dimension that what you shared. In fact, they are looking for the credibility part, which is actually the prime focus of any accreditation body, to bring out the credibility part of the business houses. So that in fact is really a very good eye opener for all the audience who are here on the eve of World Accreditation Day. Thank you very much for taking us to the journey, through the journey of accreditation, particularly in healthcare services. Thank you, Dr. B.K. Rana. Thank you. Now I'm calling upon Anupam Kaul, who is the mentor, quality standards and risk, founder and lead Verity Masters Guild. And before going into the session, let me share a brief profile about him. Anupam ji is graduated from metallurgical engineering from IIT Varanasi, and a mentor, quality standards, risk, leading quality and standardization expert. And he is having a 40 years of multifaceted experience in diverse quality related disciplines spanning manufacturing, quality, industrial quality control, inspections, certification, standards development, quality management systems, laboratory testing, accreditation standards, service quality, business excellence, risk management, etc. And he is a member of BAS Certification Advisory Committee, National Accreditation Board for Certification Bodies, NABCB, BSA India Advisory Committee, and attended several other policy committees. And he has provided consulting services to national institutions such as RBI, CBEC, FSSAI, LBS, NAA, EAC, Bangladesh Standards and Testing Institute, Nepal Bureau of Standards. So now I call upon Anupam ji to share his thought process to our audience today. Just a minute. Yeah. So he'll be sharing his thought process on. Yeah.
I won't have any presentation, so I'll just speak.
Okay, yeah, he'll be on his own. And he'll be sharing his thought process on overview of the conformity assessment infrastructure in the country to enable global trade to meet G20 goals. Now the G20 summits are going on, and our country is heading the G20 conventions, and it is very apt that we meet G20 goals. And the status of recommendation in INSS, Indian National Strategy for Standardization. Anupam ji will be sharing his thought process to all of us. Over to Anupam ji.
Unconference mode. He's getting onto an unconference mode today.
Yeah, that's what I said. Unfortunately, I didn't even have time to make a presentation, so I've just jotted some points. Also discussed with Ramaji before I talked, because he also wanted to be on the same page. So thank you very much for that. for your inputs for my discussion. So I mean, Dr. Rana had an obligation to also present about QAI. I don't have that. So I can jump straight into the subject. Sorry, I mean, no offense, Dr. Rana, but I think I know what it means, certainly. So I think the topic is a little large, and what I'll try and do basically is to present a snapshot of the multiple issues concerning standardization, called conformity assessment, technical regulations, as we stand today in India. And as I mentioned just before, I think we actually started a conference. It's becoming very wide in terms of coverage, subjects dealt, and also very complex because of the interplay both within India and also because of multiple international, especially I should say the regulatory initiatives being taken, led of course by Europe and closely followed by the other OECD countries, and also now of course China is also becoming very aggressive in terms of regulatory practices. So it's making a difference in terms of how we look at not only trade, but also domestic quality infrastructure of our country. So I would actually use, Ramanji, the reference of INSS, which was mentioned there. One, because I was involved in its development. And as of date, that still continues to be the most comprehensive reference point available to us to be able to take a stock of where we are today. And in fact, I presented the same thing in the conference, National Standards Conclave in December last year. Nobody had done that, and there was an obligation on the government actually to do a review, so which I did for them. So I'm not making a presentation, but use it as a reference and to look at the different four aspects of the quality infrastructure as we have today. So first of all, I would like to touch a little bit about the standards side, on which, of course, the prominent player is the Bureau of Indian Standards. This used to be an organization till about 5-6 years ago that we were all a little apprehensive about, not very responsive and a little, okay. But what we have seen in the last at least 4 to 5 years, there has been a very massive transformation in the way BIS has gone about looking at the area of standards in particular. Of course, product certification is their bread and butter, but they have really transformed to a large extent their own way of dealing with the standards. Two things that they did was they came up with this document called the Standards National Action Plan, which was based on the recommendations of the INSS, and they did it to the T. I mean, absolutely every single recommendation that was there, they brought into this. And the second thing that they did is to try and broad base the activity of the standardization to multiple actors and subjects and all of that. And in that process, I'll just read out a few of the things that they have done, and which is very heartening, and it's going to make a lot of difference in the quality infrastructure in the country, because standards closely relate to conformity assessment and also to accreditation and then to technical regulations. So one of the things that they did for broad basing was to launch a SDO's recognition program. SDO stands for Standards Developing Organizations. We already had about 40 odd organizations in the country from public and private sector. All of them were running independently, doing their own work. So BIS has tried to put them all together on one board, create a two-tier structure so that BIS becomes the apex body and everybody else contributes to the national standardization effort. So some bodies have, the scheme is launched, some bodies have already got accredited and more are expected. And there has also been a move to create more SDOs in the country, especially technical wings of the sectoral industry bodies. Some of them have come forward and they're also in the process of getting recognized. So that's a good area. And in the process, they also did a lot of training program, capacity development, things like those. The second thing that they did was to encourage and request both industry associations and the government ministries to create standards cells within them. And standard cells not only to do with standards, but to do with everything relating to standards, including conformity assessment, the quality control orders, the TBT SPS notifications of other countries, how to respond to them. So a lot of mandate was given to them. So a start has been made. I think almost 50 odd industry associations and about 16, 17 ministries have gone on to establish these standard cells. It is still a work in progress because although it has been done, they're still at a loss of what exactly how to begin work, how to go ahead. So there are discussions going on that some hand holding will also come so that they can actually start getting into the act. So so that's a good area that they have started working on. Additionally, they have been doing a lot of webinars on awareness programs on implementation of standards, including international standards. Incidentally, the progress report on adoption of international standards in India is now fairly good. It used to be very low earlier, but now it's upwards of 80% of the standards in India, for which there is a international equivalence available. So among that population, the number is more than 80%. And therefore, many of the technical regulations that are coming up now are also based on the international standards, which is good from a point of view of the MRAs, which I'll speak about later, and FTA that we are entering. They all require international standards to be the basis. So that has gone ahead. BIS is also going ahead to some of the recommendations was to encourage more participation of experts and MSMEs into the standard development process. So funding has been started even for domestic attendance of the committees, which is good because that was a problem in the standards committees, not enough participation leading to standards getting developed, which are not practical. It is still an issue, but that is being addressed now. So hopefully that should get resolved. Similarly, in the committees itself, there has been a rethinking that so far there have been committees which was based on inviting people from government departments, institutions on nomination basis. So even because I also chair 2 committees, and the problem was that most people who come to these committees, so they are not experts, they cannot really contribute. So very few would actually do that. So there has been a rethinking that try and get more experts into the committee, and also some discussion on probably they could also get funded. So that's something which is quite good. On the international side, some leadership initiatives have been taken up at the ISO-IC level. So number is slowly going up. We have about 11 committees in ISO where we have leadership position, committee and subcommittee. More work items are being proposed from India. So to that extent, we are making nothing to beat China, of course. China has zoomed ahead of almost all of the countries in that respect. But we are also making a good progress. So hopefully we should make some good headway on that as well. Okay, and then also some research-based standards development work that will get funded from BIS, and then service standards are getting developed at a very fast pace. I am happy to chair one of those committees. So 20 divisions, 20 committees have been set up, and they are going ahead, and a lot of work is being done. So that's something which is quite good. So this is the good side of what we have achieved as far as the INSS is concerned. Other than that, the Ministry of Commerce has been holding a lot of standard conclaves all over the country to educate state governments and, of course, the industry in those states. Several states, so 16, 17 conferences have been done to educate. So all that is going on. Now, when it comes to the issues that we have today, so of course, starting with conformity assessment, and it's a no-brainer that the problems still exist today, which is of the non-accredited certification. It continues unabated, and you can easily buy a certificate for ISO 9001 or similar management systems, so that we really don't have any mechanism to control that. Now that we are also going to have a lot of quality control orders, a lot of mandatory standards that are going to be implemented. Already we have the numbers gone up to 388 from a figure of 106 about 3 years back. It's gone up to 388. Another about 700 are in the pipeline. So that number is going up very, very fast. So once we have that regimen in the country, the likelihood is that there will also be a lot of malpractices in relation to compliance to those standards or compliance to certification scheme of the BIS. I did some research some time back on certain. So the toys is being taken as a success story in the country. But if you look at the number of companies that have been actually certified in India, it's not even 50%. If you look at the numbers that is presented on the government website. So that is the rate of compliance, and therefore people will either not get the approvals, or they will get misuse the markings. So a lot of malpractices in the market, for which the recommendation was to have some kind of omnibus regulation in the country on conformity assessment and technical regulations. It was one of the clear recommendations of the INSS, which was also supported by the government at that point of time. But unfortunately, nothing really has happened in that regard. So what we are seeing today, most of the QCOs that are coming up, quality control orders, government find this very easy, and the easier way out to dump it on BIS. And more than 90% of the QCOs are based on BIS certification scheme. And since I have also been attending the BIS executive committee meetings, so that question has come up several times: where are the resources? How is it going to be done? With so much of sectoral, full sectors, also piecemeal standards that are coming up under the QCOs, how is it going to be addressed? BIS can at best do the initial approvals, and for surveillance, some degree of contracting has been done with the certification bodies, accredited bodies, but that also may not be enough. And then as far as it comes to enforcement, it's going to be extremely, extremely difficult. We just don't have the mechanism, the machinery right now in the country to enforce that. Of course, help will have to be taken from the state governments, police, so on and so forth, but that's going to be a very long-term effort. So on one hand, we are going ahead in notifying the mandatory standards orders. On the other hand, we are hardly prepared to that extent. We also don't have yet to set up a proper market surveillance program in the country, a regulator-driven, a government-driven. BIS has its own, but that's only for their own certification program, and they do it their way. So it's actually a requirement. If you're going for FTAs, and with Europe, for example, in particular, the first thing they're going to ask you is, you have conformity assessment, where's the market surveillance? So that's going to be a handicap. So suggestions have been made. Even I was asked to prepare a document once. I gave it to the ministry. There are other documents also available, but government still has to take a view of that. Another recommendation was to also set up the voluntary or self-regulating mechanisms of certification bodies on conformity assessment bodies in India. So some movement has happened. Of course, TIC Council is very much there, which is a new avatar of IFER. But then I think the laboratories have set up. They have association of laboratories. Similarly, now the inspection bodies have started to organize themselves into an association. Of course, ACBI is there, but they're not been very active. So a third forum is likely to come out. I have been consulted on that. If that happens, it'd be extremely good, because conformity assessment bodies also need to regulate themselves and also guard their position, because as I mentioned earlier, with so much of unaccredited certifications and fraudulent certifications happening, we need to have bodies to be able to respond to them. So that's quite important. And then this whole question of the FTA that I mentioned earlier. So as we had done some study earlier, India had signed about 40 odd FTAs earlier, out of which just about, I think, 10 or 12 mentioned standards, and only 2 or 3 of them actually went on to elaborate that. So Singapore, of course, was one, Japan was yet another. But now the good thing that is happening is that the new FTAs, two of them that we have recently signed, one with Australia and one with the UAE. So they have very clear chapters on SPS and on TBT, and also the trade issues that are mentioned there. They link the the non-tariff barriers as part of the trade issues. So very elaborate requirements have been placed in the FTA documents on both of them, and they of course not only that they encourage the use of the international standards, but also encourage the the MRAs, government to government, and also go beyond that to say that the accreditation bodies and even conformity assessment bodies can independently have voluntary acceptance arrangements among themselves. So that is something which is very good, and I think we should take advantage of that. Start with these 2 countries. The third one with the UK, of course, it's just 50% work complete on that. Out of 26, only 13 chapters have been done. But very likely, we'll also have a similar arrangement as we have with Australia and UAE. So that should give a real fillip for these things to go up. Dr. Rana mentioned about that accreditation should itself facilitate acceptance of testing and inspection results or certification results across countries who have signed the MLA, the IAF or ILAC MLAs. But in real world, it doesn't happen. We very well know that. Everybody wants to have their own mechanism. So accreditation becomes only a hygiene factor, a qualifying factor. But actual acceptance, whether it's a company or it's a certification program or even accreditation programs, US, for example, want for many sectors, for example, in telecom, they want the accreditation body itself to be approved by them before it can be accepted. So NABL has got a mandate on that, but they haven't done it so far, the issue has been raised earlier. So the real world requirements are different. The theory is that one certificate accredited should be acceptable all over the world. It doesn't happen that way. So therefore, what is the next best is that these FTAs and the corresponding MRAs, they facilitate this acceptance. It's on a bilateral basis. With EU, when you sign the FTA, whenever that happens, that will be, of course, multilateral to an extent. India with EU, so that should facilitate on a wider scale similar arrangements. So that's something that we can surely look forward to. Of course, the current document that I have seen, the FTA document, the chapters are there. They don't really specify how the subjects for the MRAs will be identified. What it says is there is a subcommittee set up for managing that particular chapter. But in the Singapore agreement, the subjects were actually identified from both the sides, food on one side, electrical components on one side. These FTAs do not actually provide for that information, but hopefully mechanisms will develop. And I will therefore encourage very strongly both, of course, the industry sectors and also the conformity assessment bodies to look at these FTAs and based on their information and knowledge to recommend to the government the subject that need to be taken up in these two blocks, Australia and the UAE, where India should ask for the acceptance of its products as they are being exported to them based on our conformity assessment. Of course, the FTA says it's an equivalence of regulatory requirements. So that we don't have still, because even if we are going to export to some other country, one is that our QCOs exempt them from the local regulation. And the other is that it is still not as broad-based as we have the EIC, certification program for the marine products, which is full industry-based. So full sector is covered in that one, based on the MRA with the EU. So that kind of arrangement is required, where you cover the entire sector here, and then you go to the other country. But even otherwise, because the FTA says that conformity assessment bodies and accreditation bodies can themselves ask for equivalence. So I think we should strongly encourage that to happen. Okay. Then there was also a recommendation to have an active coordination mechanism under the Department of Commerce, where all the respective bodies, Export Inspection Council, BIS, the accreditation boards, commodity boards, and conformity assessment bodies, and of course other regulators, they should all come forward. This issue has been going on for a long time, the tough issue. So there is a regulator and he says that I will do everything about my subject. For example, the telecom regulator in the BIS, an actual tough issue came up when BIS set up a telecom committee for standards development. TRAI and DOT said, no, you can't do it. It's our domain. So, I mean, despite a lot of meetings and arrangement, they said, no, we will not allow you to write any standards on telecom. So therefore, the regulatory body wants to do everything, the regulatory regime, the standards development, the conformity assessment, everything. So all bundled together. Whereas the recommendation always has been to debundle them. I mean, let the specialized agencies do their jobs. So this is still an issue. And therefore, we need a lot of coordination arrangements to understand where there is a conflict and where there is not, to be able to differentiate. One topic that I think Ramaji had suggested for my discussion was this: can there be a mechanism to promote the brand India through accreditation and through the conformity assessment or certification? So as I mentioned earlier, actually, at the moment, accreditation is, to my mind, is only a hygiene factor. It does not actually present a brand. But I was encouraged to see what Dr. Rana presented about the biobanking kind of schemes. If we can actually develop schemes like that, where we take the lead, let's say in India, and then use accreditation and take an early lead, it has a potential probably to develop into a brand that can be accepted beyond India. So I think probably scheme-led accreditation programs have a much better chance than generic programs like ILAC or IF-based, and we want to convert them into brand. That is quite unlikely really to happen. Already we really don't have any history in India of creating international brands. Although we excel in certain products, for example, textiles, so much of textile products from India are being, marketed in different parts of the world. And but the labeling is not ours. It's always white labeled products in others. So there is always a chance if the industry can come forward, create a brand, go to the accreditation body, say that we want you to back it up, and then we'll promote the brand, and together it happens. Probably it has a much better chance of success. So I think this is as far as the conformity assessment is concerned. And do I have the time to just speak a bit about technical regulations, or should I stop, Ravaji?
Continue. Actually, this is a very interesting conversation. Please continue.
Okay, then I'll just continue with
We need
this
to
one.
touch upon the technical regulations. It's very critical.
Yeah, so that's quite important right now. So technical regulations, as I mentioned earlier, when we started, we had 106 products under the BIS, and we had a little bit on medical devices. Just a few 7 categories were there, and I think a few more sector. Of course, food is not. I'm not covering food. That was FSC had already come up by that time. So it was, and some in mines, some in electrical. Very few products were actually covered. PISO had done some, but after 2017, there has been this great movement forward. The considerations that the experts wanted and what the government ultimately took up were different. So our the view was to catch up with the deficit on technical regulations with Europe, with OECD, and with other countries. The government also took it up as something like a protectionist measure to be able to curb imports, because other schemes were also coming up. PLI was also coming up at that time to encourage domestic production and try and find mechanisms to curb imports. And therefore, in a way, it was good because in India, if you look at the imports, there are organized imports, and then there are trader-led imports. The trader-led imports, there is no assurance of any kind of quality, and they are being dumped into the market. You can go to your Bhagirath Palace here in India and get all those products that are coming from different countries of no quality at all. To that extent, it's a good scheme. The approach of the government is important to be able to curb the substandard imports that are coming into the country and also provide a level playing field. But the proposal was to have, as far as possible, full sector-based technical regulations, omnibus regulations, as we call them. So, but what is happening is, although in one area at least, or 2 areas, I can say, medical devices, which went for complete sector on at least the in vitro, the IVDs, medical devices, I should say, the IVD types, they are fully now covered. So it's omnibus. And also on machinery safety, this omnibus regulation has been at least notified, not yet implemented. So 2 areas which have been covered under omnibus are good. Steel is piecemeal, that means product by product. But good thing is almost 90 to 95% steel has now been covered under the standards. So, but there are still loopholes. 5% is still exempt, and actually is creating a huge amount of issue. But in many other areas, for example, in chemicals, it's been 10 years since the discussion has been going on in the government to have a REACH mirror regulation in India, REACH of EU, and we still don't have it. Despite that, about 4 years ago, a draft was given to the government. They went ahead, discussions took place, agency was identified, many things happened. At the last moment, it didn't go forward, and we are still stuck where we are. Whereas almost 20 countries have already published their REACH-like regulations, and at least another 30 to 40 countries are coming up, and they will go beyond India. So that gives us a very, I should say, disadvantaged position as far as chemicals are concerned, because our industry who exports to these countries have to meet those obligations, and there's a cost involved also. And we don't have, so we allow chemicals into the country unchecked. And also we cannot have any equivalence under the FTAs in the chemicals because we don't have the regulations. So a lot of discussion has taken place. The government doesn't say no, but government also doesn't go forward. So that is a urgent need from the industry side also. The industry bodies, all of them are very pro this regulation, but for whatever reasons, they have not been able to do that. Another area which is coming up in all the FTAs is data privacy. And we still don't have that. I mean, the Data Privacy Act in the country is being done many rounds. Of course, there are sensitive issues involved. Everybody understands that. At the same time, because of the European GDPR, the world has moved forward. Europe has already set up accreditation programs and conformity assessment programs on certifying the data privacy requirements as per the GDPR. In India also, certification bodies are doing that for the European GDPR. If you are exporting, or if you are dealing with not only exporting, if you are dealing with anything to do with a European entity in India, so this entity has then to conform to the GDPR requirements. So in my understanding, based on the European GDPR, I think we really need to set up an accreditation program, even if it is according to their regulation, and get the ball rolling. That's something very important, because if you read the FTAs right now, all of them are mentioning about the data privacy requirements. And that's an area where the world is moving forward. You cannot deny that everything has become digital. So the earlier we move forward in that direction, even if we don't have the actual bill with us, even on a draft bill, if possible, we have to really move ahead on that one. Another area which I think Mr. Mediratta will speak much more about is the area of the validation verification of GHG, and especially with the CBAM, the cross-border adjustment mechanism that has been announced by Europe. It has created a big flutter all over the world, and India is also already objected. US has objected, China has objected, but most likely Europe will go ahead. I don't know how many of you are aware of CBAM. It is like this, that in Europe there are requirements for carbon emission reduction by certain organizations, certain industries, steel, aluminum, cement, fertilizer, chemicals, many of these. And the free allowances that have been given to these companies are gradually reducing. It will ultimately come to zero. So therefore, there is a carbon tax which is applicable to the companies in the Europe. Now, what they had done was the European companies started moving out of Europe to avoid that tax. So they found there is a leakage happening. It's called carbon leakage. And to curb that, now they have introduced a legislation that there's going to be a tax on any imports that are coming into Europe of these industries from any exporting country. And 3 years is a moratorium. From 2026, the tax is going to be applicable unless the exporting country has a parallel mechanism where they have a ETS, as it's called, the emission trading scheme, and they have a cap and trade program. And you also have imposed restrictions on the carbon emission, which will be reducing. So, and if they can match the price of the European, as they call it there, the cost is about $100 per unit now in Europe. Yeah, if you can match that, then you're exempt. If you can't match that, whatever the difference, that will be charged. So it's very important now that India, at least as a minimum, has the ETS program. So Ministry of Power has given it to the Bureau of Energy Efficiency. In March, they have taken out a draft regulation. I hope some of you have seen it. And we really hope that it comes up as quickly as possible. Because many countries have already implemented it. China has done it. So it is not something which has to be invented from afresh. You can always borrow from the experience of the other countries, and it is possible to quickly roll out a scheme. At least the deadlines and all that should be set up, because this is one area which is going to grow both in the regulatory side and also in the voluntary side. So I think this is what Ramaji, I just wanted to say today. There are topics are still too many. I haven't even touched on legal metrology today, which is part of QI. I have not even touched on the metrology side of what NPL does. That's also quite important. So QI is actually very big, but these are some of the burning issues. And I thought being World Accreditation Day today, it's time to actually look at them, review them, and also becomes a food for thought for the next speakers to be able to respond to these. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Anupamji, for a wonderful. In fact, it was a very extempore way of your unique style of sharing the things about the recommendations of INSS. In fact, really, it was a very wonderful insight into all the details. and you are still lot of things are pending. You have highlighted at the end of your speech that the legal metrology and other topics you have not even touched upon. And apart from that, I think the topic whatever you have taken up today is really useful with in the perspective of the world trade and the challenges what we are going to face, and with respect to the regulations and the schemes what we have, and the pitfalls what we are actually in the ground reality situations, how the industries are really struggling to come out with their own compliance with these type of regulations, and particularly with respect to the GDPR, which is a very relevant thing which you have touched upon, and also about the carbon emission, wherein a lot of countries are falling in line, and the emphasis on importance of having our own schemes to match the global requirements. And of course, a wonderful thing what you have touched upon, which impressed me particularly, I think hope the audience will also agree with me, is that the indigenization of the schemes, that is creating our own schemes and branding it. That's the really the tip of the iceberg, that what you're really given in fact a guidance to all of the audience who are here, particularly in the textile sector. There is a lot of things which is moving on. Maybe in the future, a lot of other domain specific schemes will follow, and we are on the right path, I think, but the speed in which we are moving, it has to be really the momentum has to pick up. And that's the message that what you have given to us on this World Accreditation Day. Thank you very much, Anupamji, for accepting our invitation and sharing your thought process on these recommendations. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shivram. Thank you.
And I request all the panelists to just come on a video mode so that we can capture the entire snapshot for a minute. I request all the panelists to come on the video, because we need it for our records.
Rana is not there, Dr. Rana.
Dr. Rana. Dr. Rana.
Thank you. Yes, maybe next round he'll come. We'll just invite him. Thank you. Yes,
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So now next is a very important topic which is going to be delivered by Dr. 𝐓𝐨𝐩𝐢𝐜, who is a scientist G, head accreditation training in AMT, that is Andhra Pradesh Medical Zone. And he is with us, having accepted our invitation for delivering his thought process on does accreditation offer assurance to global trade and commerce? IAF user perspective. That's the topic in which he is going to share his thought process. Before going into the session, let me introduce Dr. 𝐓𝐨𝐻𝐢𝐜 for the audience. Dr. 𝐓𝐨𝐻𝐢𝐜, he's having overall 29 plus years of experience in the field of quality, and he's holding an honorary position Director of International Accreditation Forum IAF and Chair of User Advisory Committee UAC of IAF, representing industries and end user of Conformity Assessments. He's a former Director, National Accreditation Board for Certification Bodies, NABCB, a constituent board of the QCI, Quality Council of India, active empaneled CDM assessor with United Nations Framework on Convention on Climate Change, UNFCCC, CDM assessor since 2010. And he has developed third-party evaluation mechanisms for regulators such as Petroleum and Natural Gas Regulatory Board, National Horticulture Board, and Warehousing Development and Regulatory Authority, and contributed in drafting of Indian Medical Devices Rule 2017 with respect to notified bodies, including regulatory audit requirements. Involved in drafting of ISO 50003 standard on energy management systems for auditor competency as an expert to ISO Cascode Technical Committee 242 and WG1 P2 50003 and ISO 21030 standard on educational organization quality management systems. Auditor competence as an expert to ISO Cascode TC, that is Technical Committee 232 JWG 58, and BA is nominated expert to ISO TC 176 for revision of guidelines for consultants and use of their services. So I welcome Dr. 𝐓𝐨𝐻𝐢𝐜 to share his thought process. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, and congratulations everybody for the celebrating this World Accreditation Day, and specifically to Consultant Consortium of Chennai for organizing such a wonderful event. Just reminding that yes, accreditation helps the entire industries, the trade. So let me share my presentation. So I think it is.
Yeah, it's visible, sir. It's visible. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll be talking about how the global trade is benefited out of this IAF, International Accreditation Forum, and ILAC framework for conformity assessment monitoring. Just yes, right. And the topic I was given is that does accreditation offers assurance to global trade and commerce on aspect of IAF user perspective. Yes. So before to that, coming to the topic, we have to understand what is the trade, global trade. And thanks to Dr. Rana, he touched upon the TBT agreement of WTA. As we know, rules for global trade is governed by the ITO, WTO, that is World Trade Organization, and based on the conformity assessment in TBT agreements and SPS agreement. TBT talks about the agreement on the technical barriers to trade, which is related to the industrial and other goods. Whereas SPS agreement talks about the human, plant, and animal related the regulation, the requirements which WTO monitors and prescribe the requirements. So the Article 4 of SPS, there it is very clearly mentioned about the mutual recognition arrangement, that is through the accreditation, which talks about equivalence allows use of different standards, different inspection methods for same level of protection, encourages members to enter into bilateral or multilateral recognition arrangements, which is IAF MLA referring to, and ILAC MRA, this mutual or bilateral agreements it's talking about, Article 4. And Article 6 of TBT agreement, it is referring to mutual recognition of conformity assessment. Here the conformity assessment, it is maybe a certification body, inspection body, testing laboratories, or validation verification bodies in other countries, and through that is accreditation. This Article 6 and Article 4 refers to a mutual recognition arrangement has to be there, and which is through the accreditation, and through that the global trade can happen. So this is a detail what I have mentioned. And what is the conformity assessment? It refers to Annexure 1, which is the procedures for sampling, testing, inspection, evaluation, verification, or assurance of conformity, which is a registration. Registration means it is also some countries it is called as a registration. It is a certification or accreditation, and approval as well. They are combination. It can be a combination of inspection or testing, which is a product certification 7065. It can be a combination of more than one thing. So we come to know that yes, accreditation is a media which is referred in the WTO TBT agreement, that can be one a way through which one a product manufactured one place and inspected, tested, or it is certified can be accepted. It is not a must. It can be accepted. So then the MRA of IAF and all those things is happen. I'll be coming to the these points in the next slides. So it is accreditation is only third-party attestation related to conformity assessment bodies like certification body, inspection bodies, laboratories, verification, validation bodies, conveying the formal demonstration of its competence to carry out specific conformity assessment tasks, a certification activity or inspection activities, etc. And as I mentioned, the conformity assessment bodies are certification bodies or inspection bodies, all these things. And this International Accreditation Forum, IAF, and the International Laboratory Accreditation Forum, ILAC, and the regional body is Asia Pacific Accreditation Cooperation. These are the enablers there is no mandate, because accreditation is not a mandatory, like certification. Certification is not a mandatory anywhere in the globe. But if the country, the regulator makes it a requirement, then it becomes a mandatory certification. 9000 or ISO 9000, any standards, any management system standards is not mandatory as such. So accreditation is also not a mandatory, but it is a media through which we can establish that yes, it is inspected, it is accepted globally, and we are on the same platform. And TBT agreement also, WTBT agreements also refer to that. That can be a media, that can be a way, enabler to accept one's product. It is inspected in one country, can be accepted globally. So the basis of the accreditation is generally international standards, because otherwise, if national standard, it cannot be accepted in the different country. So it is international standard, ISO, generally ISO standards on conformity assessment developed by ISO, also mandatory documents by IAF, or ILAC documents, some mandatory documents which the accreditation body or the lab or the inspection body has to follow, and the laboratory has to follow. So there are some documents that is developed by the ILAC or IAF apart from the ISO standards. And the main goal of IAF and ILAC put together a single worldwide program of conformity assessment, which reduces risk for business, regulators, consumers, by ensuring that accredited services can be relied upon. And government and regulators rely on IAF, ILAC arrangements, MLA or MRA to further develop enhanced trade agreements to support the freedom of the world trade by eliminating technical barriers, realizing the free trade goal of tested, inspected, certified ones is accepted everywhere. So this is, again, it is the TBT also, it talks about is not the only way. So it is a one enabler to accept one product which is manufactured, tested in one country, can be accepted globally. And definitely the government or the government of the organized government of the country or the regulator of the country has to take a call on this. So one of the main difficulties exporters face is costly multiple testing or certification of the product. If I'm exporting, one manufacturer is exporting from India to US, then he has to test it from here after the product is ready and send it to US, export to US. Then again, they will test it. So that is the difficulties of exporters. So to reduce that cost, repeated testing, repeated inspection, repeated verification, validation report. So to avoid that, this is the one mechanism. And this cost would be drastically reduced if a product could be tested once and the testing results can be accepted in all markets, achieved through accreditation. This is one of the most important benefit of getting into accreditation framework. And how it operates? So it operates, IAF is the structure which monitors the certification bodies, I mean to say accreditation bodies, accredit the certification body, inspection bodies or laboratories. Then this IAF deals with the implementation of these certifications and verification validation. This part, management system, product certification, person certification, it is dealt by the all certification activities dealt by the IAF. And ILAC, it deals with the inspection and the laboratory accreditation bodies. Then APAC is the regional bodies. Earlier it was APAC, PSC, Pacific Accreditation Corporation was one corporation was under the IAF, and APLAC was under ILAC as a regional body of Asia Pacific. And later in 2020, it was merged to become a APAC. And also there is a discussion and also in the final stage of process that IAF and ILAC is going to be merged. And it will be another organization, a new body covering this inspection, certification, GHG, laboratory accreditation, everything. So one roof, like APAC has done, I mean to say merged PSC and APLAC. Then this happens, the evaluation of the accreditation body by the regional accreditation group. In our case in Asia Pacific, that is APAC. APAC is the regional accreditation group in Asia Pacific, and evaluation is done of AB is done by the APAC. in Asia Pacific region. And resulting to PSC, that is in our case, MRA signatory is assigned between the, let's say example, in India, any accreditation body wants to become a IAF member, then they have to apply to the APAC regional region. They will do the peer evaluation of the accreditation body, and based on that APAC results, IAF will sign a MRA or MLA. So that is the structure. Again, IAF is not going to do the audit of the Indian accreditation body or any country accreditation body. The regional body will do the peer evaluation with the support of the peer evaluator, representation of the accreditation bodies in that region. Then it will be accepted by the APAC, I mean to say ILAC or IAF. And based on the APAC region, IAF, ILAC, MLA, MRA is signed. So that is the overall these things. And there are totally globe is divided into 6 regional accreditation groups, and we are falling under the APAC, Asia Pacific Accreditation Cooperation. Similarly, EA, ARAC, IASC, AFRAC, and SADCA recently joined as one of the regional accreditation group to IAF. And the multilateral or mutual recognition arrangement is signed through regional group with IAF or MRA with the ILAC, if it is a laboratory accreditation or the inspection accreditation. So this emerging structure, everybody knows, are the apex. Legislation is enacted by the government. Then regulatory bodies, maybe in the different sector like medical device or food, enforce the law. And accreditation body supports technical competency of the conformity assessment bodies, certification body, inspection body, or the laboratories. They check the competency, whether they are competent enough to do the conformity assessment activities, certification or inspection based on the specific Indian international standards. So technical competency of the certification bodies or the conformity assessment bodies are monitored, accredited by accreditation body. Then conformity assessment bodies take up the activity of the conformity assessments and certify or inspect or test lab testing done by them at the laboratory or the industry level. And finally, the common man recipient of the goods or services of this reliable certification or inspection report or test laboratory reports. So this I have already discussed, because Apex also the accreditation body, then they accredit the certification body or inspection body or laboratory, and these certification bodies or the conformity assessment bodies certify or inspect the manufacturer's product or the services. And at the end, the consumers, the government, consumers, and the purchasers, public procurement departments, they get the trust, confidence, and assurance that whatever they are getting the products or services is of quality as expected. So what is the IAF supports to the accreditation bodies? So as I have discussed that MLA, that is multilateral agreement, underpins cross-border trade through the acceptance of the certification. As I mentioned, certified ones accepted everywhere for the IAF. Similarly, tested, inspected ones is accepted everywhere for the ILAC. So coordination to harmonize best practices. What are the best practices available in the globally? So that has to be, that can be make a requirement as at the IAF level. The issue is that implementation issue is that because there are not much members participating in the IAF or ILAC level or the APAC level, the regional accreditation group. So because these issues I have also faced, so we have to participate, then share what is the best practices. Then that can be included in the IAF or ILAC documentation system. Even the ISO standard making, international standards formulation making, rightly Dr. Anupam-ji mentioned that yes, there are availability. I mean to say BIS is here to being a standards making body, but we are not able to get right kind of people, the competent people who can provide the contribute to the requirements, contribute to the standards making. So there is a lack of participations at every level, whether it is the Indian level, national level, or the international level, ISO level, or it is IAF or ILAC or APAC level. So everywhere there is a right kind of people. We are not, I mean to say, people are not participating. So that is a big issue. So coordination to harmonize the best practices globally, This is the IF support to the accreditation bodies, platform to exchange information of knowledge, and technical assistance and development services to the support developing countries to establish certification infrastructure. IF also supporting in that to set up the any infrastructure required in the developing countries, like in Africa. So a lot of support has been given from the IF and ILAC also. So support to developing and emerging economies, links with ILAC, international standardization bodies, and the trade organization. So they are the partners to the IF and ILAC. These are the partners. So ILAC, then International Organization of Legal Metrology, UN Industrial Development Organization, UNIDO, the World Bank, then various scheme owner like Global Gap, International Telecommunication Union, ISO, IEC, then all international civil aviation organization. They are the partners to the IAF and IF, and they are also their standard requirements, scheme requirements, like IATF has a scheme. So it becomes a member. It is also a member to the IAF, so that, and IAF members are also part to the IATF or ISO committees, and they are also contributing how those standards can be improved on the perspective of the implementers, like accreditation body, certification body, labs, how that can be improved, standards can be improved. So they are the partners to the IAF. So who are the users of this accreditation framework? As we know, everybody, that industries, laboratories, conformity assessment like CD, IB, labs, validation, verification bodies, scheme owners. So Global Gap, FSSC, PEFC. But now last 10 years, I have been seeing in the IAF, there are a lot of scheme owners. They are showing interest and getting their schemes endorsed by IAF. So it is a good move. And rightly, Anupamji also mentioned that, yes, these ISO standards like 9000 or the management system standards, so it's better, implementation is better in the case of scheme, because scheme owner has control on the schemes. They can prescribe and monitor the implementation of the schemes. So that may be the one of the reasons why globally the schemes are, more and more schemes are coming up, and they are getting endorsed with the IAF and getting globally acceptable. And the regulators, the same problem here I faced also. So in a user advisory committee of UF, there are only one regulator member to that IAF. So every country has regulators mostly, and in different sector. So they are not participating. So we are not contributing, we are not participating internationally, and at the same time, and expecting some more improvement and something like that. But that cannot be possible. So we all economies who participate in developing the standards, definitely ISO standards, and at the same time, the implementation agency like implementing monitoring agencies like IAF and ILAC or the regional APAC bodies, we should participate through membership so that we can contribute for the betterment of the implementation of quality system entirely in the globe. So this is the present status of USC membership, User Advisory Committee. You can see here the scheme owners are, many scheme owners are there, about 10 scheme owners. Only industry participants are only 5, and 1 is regulator. So being chair of User Advisory Committee of IAF, this task I have taken. So more and more regulators and industries participation in the User Advisory Committee, who can participate in various committees of IAF and ILAC, and also regional bodies, and strengthen the system of relying on accreditation infrastructure in the world. So what are the benefits of accreditation? As my previous speakers also mentioned about that, that recognition of the CAPs by Indian conformity assessment bodies, that is once tested, no need of to avoid the retesting and inspection, and reduces cost, reduction in the risk to the government. So somebody has already accreditation has been given to a certification or inspection body, so risk is less. So straightforward regulator can rely on them, And that has started in India also gradually. In the last 10 years, I can see the regulators like CDSU, the medical device regulator, and also FSSI, gradually all one by one, the regulators are coming and relying on the accreditation system. So first of all, we have to make them understand what is accreditation, how it helps repeated this thing, and it helps in global trade. And the competency has been checked through the accreditation and the certification conformity assessment. So they don't no need to do testing and rely on the, they can straightforward rely on the competency of the certification body or inspection body or the laboratories. So lower cost of the accreditation, no doubt, because once it is inspected, tested one country, no need to do the testing at the landing country. So cost reduces. And recognition of the technical competency, yes, technical competency, because the standards of what the accreditation or the conformity assessment bodies follow is international standard, that is ISO standards, which is accepted globally and accepted by the IAF and ILAC also, endorsed by those ISO standards. So obviously the same standard which is at par, if it is implemented in India, which based on which the report has been prepared, the inspector tested the product, so which has to be accepted, which should be accepted by globally. The customer confidence and satisfaction increases, increased efficiency also, its system efficiency also increased, marketing advantage, increased business, that you are certified, your product is inspected, tested from a laboratory which is accredited and with a MLA, MRA to ILAC. So it gives a advantage or increased business. International recognition also by that, if you are using that certificate of accreditation body logo, which is already IAF or ILAC, MLA, MRA signatory. So that give you a reach, a passport or visa to rest of the world from India. So the benefit of the conformity assessment is it provides a way for consumers and the regulators to gain confidence in the products, services offered by the suppliers and differentiate between them. And this conformity assessment is a way for legitimate suppliers to build confidence in their products or services and differentiate themselves from the competitors, Me Too factor. And this process known as a brand building. So one can do the brand building. Yes, I am certified from a accredited certification bodies, which is acceptable globally. So industry preferred conformity assessment model are if the low risk products, so there you can use the supplier declaration of the conformity CDOC, and voluntary, maybe voluntary third-party certification, post-market surveillance, recall mechanism, that will help you in the recall mechanism and penalty mechanism. And if it is a intermediate risk products, then pre-market surveillance is accepting justified SDOC. But that should be to some extent if it is not a high risk product. So can be SDOC can be decided, you can decide at your end that whether SDOC is enough or the third party certification from accredited conformity assessment organization with MRA. See, it's not only accredited from a accreditation body. So you have to check whether there is a MRA signatory or MLA signatory with IAF or ILAC. If you are talking about the testing lab or the inspection, that should be MLA, MRA signatory with ILAC. If you are talking about a product certification, management system certification, personal certification, then you should look at the accreditation certification body or personal certification body. They have accreditation from a IAF signatory bodies that you have to ensure. It's not only member of the IAF. They should have signed a MRA or MLA with IAF or ILAC. That is most important. Full members of this. Then the pre-market surveillance requiring mandatory third-party certification with MRA option. If it is a regulatory and high risk that require pre-market surveillance, one should go by that. What consumer or user should know about this requirement? So you should be very clear that if it is a management system certification we are talking about, so it is not a product quality. It is not assuring your product quality. So if it is a product certification, like example, ISI mark or egg mark or CE or US FDA, so all these are product certification. Product quality, performance, safety has been guaranteed through this product certification. But if you are going for the 13485 or it is 9001 or it is 14001, it talks about the system of the organization which is meeting the requirements of international standard, which is ISO 9001 or 13485 for medical devices. This is system standard. We cannot expect that product is guaranteed the quality. So it is a system certificate. Similarly, open market foreign, as you know, this certification is even the accreditation also is very open. Means there are a lot of certification body operating because it is a voluntary. Similarly, accreditation body is also voluntary. So in India, like NABCB, NABL are the accreditation bodies, and there are a lot more accreditation bodies which are also a member to, or I mean to signatory to IAF and ILAC also operating. So you have to look at if the accreditation body is member to, I mean to say MRA signed MRA with the ILAC or the MLA signatory to IAF, then rely on that certification body and ask for that. So there are a lot of unaccredited certificates, no bar, but beware AB's logo on the certificate. Not only AB logo, also check whether that AB accreditation body is part of IAF or ILAC structure or not. If not, again I have told you, accreditation is also voluntary. There are a lot of mustering of accreditation bodies like certification bodies or inspection bodies. So we should be careful deciding a certification body, inspection body, or laboratory whether that is accredited by accreditation body which is part of IAF or ILAC infrastructure or not. So the conclusion, CAP should be accredited from AB signatory to IAF or ILAC MRA, MLA, MRA, and IAF MLA signatory that you can get it from this site. Straightforward, you can go to the IAF MLA signatory on the IAF.nu, and similarly ILAC MRA signatory laboratory accreditation body, you can go, you can search through ilac.org signatory search. There is a good thing IAF has come out with this. Earlier it was not that to identify whether the certificates in the market, the certification body has issued is a genuine one or not. So IAF has started a IAF search mechanism. So this is the site where you can put the name of the organization which is claiming that I am certified to 9001. It is limited, no doubt it is limited to management system I'm talking about. It's not talking about the inspection or the laboratory or the product certification or personal certification. It is only management system certification. They have started. Maybe in future they will add the product certification or the personal certification that can be available. There you can search now. You can search any certification body, any certificate in the market claiming to be certified. Certificate, this is a validity certificate, you can check it through IAF search. So it will give the validity, which scope. The important is scope. If I am manufacturing medical devices, what type of medical devices, what competency I have to whether I have the competence for MRI manufacturing or only the BP meters. So that scope is already mentioned. So from IAF search, you will put the name of the organization claiming certificate. Then you will get the scope of certificates, which certification body has been given this certificate, what is the validity. So all things you will get it from the IAF search. Then you have to look at the scope covered in the accreditation, AB logo in the certificate, and rely on suppliers, your suppliers. If you are manufacturers, then you have to rely on the IAF accredited certification body certificate from your suppliers. Only believe on these certificates. So this is all about my presentation, and also as I mentioned you, consultant fraternity is so far not being part of IAF or ILAC. I strongly believe that this consultancy fraternity is a very strong, important stakeholder of any conformity assessment, or it is at the level of accreditation monitoring by IAF or ILAC. So as part of USC User Advisory Committee, I think we can make a strong note, a strong proposal to IAF level, if that can be considered a consultant fraternity to be one of the stakeholder participating in a monitoring system and the development of IAF and ILAC, because IAF and ILAC is now merging. Otherwise, I am not part of the ILAC now, but it is going to, it is merging in coming 6 months time, most probably. And that stakeholder can be, one of the stakeholder can be the consultant fraternity. On this, you can strongly recommend, you can strongly propose to the IAF level on this, so that we can strengthen our accreditation infrastructure globally. So that's it from my end. Thank you very much.
Thank you, 𝐤𝐤𝐲𝐻, for that last note, which you were sharing, was really happy news for all the consultants who are here in this forum. I think we have been always saying that consultants play a very vital role in certifications, as well as in helping the industry to get the certifications. And of course, definitely the importance of accreditation. You have highlighted the role of IAF and also the member bodies of IAF and the ILAC and related users of IAF, and also the IAF users are also the benefit of accreditation. That's very important topic which you are really harping on, and definitely it was a very useful information, and also the benefits of conformity assessments. I think that is a highlight of your thing, and also the fake certificates, which is really be a big challenge for the industry, as well as for the trade, as well as for the consultants, is the fake certificates, which is going on and on. And you have shared the relevant website where the authenticity of all these things can be verified, both in ILAC as well as in IAF. I think it's really a good move by ILAC and IAF, and definitely through you, our voice will be heard very loud in IAF forums. Thank you for accepting our invitation from CCC and sharing your thought process. Thank you very much. Now I request all our panelists to come on 1-minute video mode, so that we can, some more people have joined. That's why I'm requesting again and again, so that we don't want to leave anyone.
Patrick, welcome.
Welcome, Patrick.
Can you please turn on your video? I guess he's not there. Maybe we'll request him for that. I think even Mr. Manjunath was there. Yeah, yes, he's there. Fair enough. Let's do it. Maybe Patrick is not there. We'll just do it next round.
So now I welcome Mr. Manjunath Vittal Rao, who is the Standards and Programs Manager, Underwriters Laboratories, Inc. For this session. He is a BE in Mechanical Engineering and Master of Technology, MTech in Quality Management, graduate trainee at National Aerospace Laboratory, close to a decade experience in industry in design and development function. Started his journey in UL as a Standards and Program Manager way back in 2007, and heading UL as a Regional Standards Manager, South Asia and Sub-Saharan Africa for UL Standards and Engagement. And really, we are happy to invite you, sir, for this session. And his topic is going to be on the future of trade, the new technologies and consumer behaviors are reshaping global commerce. How connected are the regulatory frameworks, international conformity assessment programs to address the disruptive digital technology space? That's the topic in which he is going to deliver his lecture. Over to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Hope I am audible, and
yeah, you are audible, sir. Your screen is also visible.
It's also visible. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much for
thank you,
and giving me an opportunity to be part of this August gathering. We have got so many learned people. Anupam Kaul sir, 𝐤𝐤𝐲𝐻𝐿, 𝐸𝐻, yourself, all of you. Thank you very much for giving this opportunity. It's a great honor for me to be part of this event. I'll mostly touch upon mostly how the standards, because I think Jainaji talked about the standards, how they form the basis, and then we take it up to the accreditation, the testing, laboratories, or the professional certification or the personal certification, all of that. So I would be talking more upon the standards, how standards can facilitate, how the trade would look like, or what is that we need to really look at as the future trade, and how India, particularly I'm just going to talk more on the India, how India can become a global hub for us, what all we need to do. So what I would do is I'll just quickly, though it has been already briefed. I'm Manjunath, and you can call me Manju. I'm the Regional Standards Manager for South Asia and Sub-Saharan Africa. I'm a mechanical engineer with Masters in Quality Management. I'm part of various sectional committees of BIS, the Bureau of Indian Standards, and also member of National Building Code Revision. I've got 30+ years of experience, and I work very closely with various industry associations. One of the significant thing which I would like to talk about is the being a national chair of Standards Committee of 𝐓𝐨𝐻𝐚. 𝐓𝐶 is the Indian Society for Heating, Refrigeration and Air Conditioning Engineers. And also I have been recognized and as a distinguished member of technical staff by W.H. Merrill Society, that is William Henry Merrill Society. And I have been working with UL now 16+ years. So let me quickly give not more than a minute about my organization. My organization is a mission-driven organization which is working for a safer world. As you see, there are three different colors that you can see. There are three different organizations, because most of us or many of you would have seen UL with us, UL in a circle, which is on the products many a times. However, there are three organizations which are working towards making the world safer with the common mission. There is something called blue. What you see is the UL Research Institute, which does the fundamental safety research, which works towards how do we make the emerging technologies or the new technologies being safer. And we develop the standards based on the research outcome, plus getting the stakeholders across the globe coming together, having the consensus standards being developed, so that the knowledge that has been gained from the research, from the market, from the stakeholders is translated into standards, which becomes a foundation for delivering the products, systems which are safer. So which gets delivered by the UL solutions, that is offering the solutions like testing, inspection, and certification. UL Research Institute and UL Standards and Engagement are the non-profit organization, whereas UL Solutions as a solutions provider, they are a profit organization or a commercial organization. Just to quickly give, I am associated with the UL Standards and Engagement. UL Standards and Engagement is a non-profit standards development organization which is accredited by American National Standards Institute, ANSI, and also Standards Council of Canada. We have been developing standards for last 120 years. Our first standard got developed in 1903, and we are celebrating our 120th year of standard development this year. Our aim is to support the local or the region across globe with providing them inputs, knowledge sharing, and also sharing our standards for adoption, or as a basis for development of the local standards. We are also a recognized standard by SDO, recognized standard development organization by DGN, which is in Mexico, and we develop the national standards for ANSI, America, Canada, and also Mexico. There are binational, trinational standards which has been developed. One of the things which I would like to now continue on to talk about, Jainaji was talking about the international standards. We are a standard development organization who conform to the WTO principles, which has been defined by WTO for any standards development organization to say they are developed, or the standards that are developed by them are the international standards. There are 6 principles. These 6 principles are: one is the transparency, the other one is the openness, the third one is the impartiality and consensus, Fourth is the effectiveness and the market relevance. That's going to be the most important. How this SDO or the standards that are developed are being market relevant and also effective. Fifth one is the how coherent they are working with. The coherence is an important factor. Last but not the least is going to be the development dimensions. So our standards development process, which has been developed, takes care of all the 6 principles. Though we do not add international to ours as a suffix or the prefix to our standard development process, I mean, or this as an organization, we are a global standard development organization conforming to all the WTO principles. Now, shifting gears to the topic that I have been asked to talk about, why there are the technologies which are being developed. What we are really seeing is technologies are developing at a much faster pace. If you really look at the technology which started with the water and steam power, and when it went into the IC engines or the getting into the mass production, when the Ford came out with the first car, it took almost around 72 to 80 years for it to mature. However, from there, when it moved on to the next level, and now what you see, the time is shrinking, and there is a need for all of us to look at how do we really make these technologies which are evolving become more safer, secure, and sustainable. So while the technology is developing at a faster pace, it also poses a lot of challenges for us. As I said, it's going to be important for us to look at how these technologies are being safer, secure, and sustainable. So let me tell you what happens. Why is all this happening is because of the way we look at, the way we accept the product, the way we accept the system, all of that. Our expectations as a customer is changing. Our needs are changing with the evolving technologies. As I experience something new, there are additional things which keep coming up. So my expectations as a customer keeps changing. So that forces the manufacturers, the design organizations or the research organization to develop technologies which will meet the customer requirements and which makes things better. However, while the technologies are being developed, the things it also gets associated with, because by the time the technology has to be normalized, or if it has to become stable, there are various hitches that has to be really addressed. Like if I have to give an example, EV or the batteries that we are using is a wonderful system. However, there are certain technical changes or this risk factors, the challenges, the safety challenges, also the sustainability challenges which comes along with that has to be addressed. So all these brings the new safety, security, and sustainability challenges. How do we address it is through standards. The standards has to be developed with all the stakeholders coming together, whether it is not just the manufacturing organization, it is not just the research organization, it is even the consumers, the regulators, the testing organization, all of them coming together and say, hey, look how this technology can be made safer. So we develop a standard, and this standard, which once it gets implemented through a proper conformity assessment scheme being developed, and the product gets certified. But what is going to be the most important? These schemes, as we said, as Mrutyunjay was talking about, it has to have that credibility through the accreditation. The credibility can be built through the accreditation, so that it talks about is there a system which has been well established, and a third party says, yes, there is enough of precautions that has been taken. The scheme is developed according to a particular system or the guide that has been provided. Now, what next it happens is, once this is being done, it again gets into saying the customer expectations will change with just a sec, give me a minute. There is going to be continuous improvement with the changes that has been done, because when they look at the standards, when they continuously keep improving to meet or exceed the expectations of the consumers or the customers, there is going to be continuous improvements. Along with that, the expectations of the consumer also will change, or they'll come out with the new expectations. The manufacturers innovate the new technologies, new products. again the same cycle comes. So what happens is this cycle continues, and what we are going to experience today is basically talking about how these future technology products has to be, or the systems has to be made safer, secure, and sustainable through a right ecosystem being developed. Now let me go to the next slide, where I am just talking about, as probably all of you are well aware of this, which is the quality, house of quality. The standards and codes becomes the foundation for any products or any system to be assessed and made sure that it delivers what it is intended to be. What is it intended to be? Either it is going to be the public safety, it is going to be the global trade, it is going to how economy can grow. The economy has to grow. If the economy has to grow, there has to be a standard which gets translated by delivering the quality product system or the services through a conformity assessment scheme, which is well defined through a well defined system, and through a accredited the conformity assessment scheme, which has been accredited by an accreditation organization. However, it does not stop there. It also has to have, because a continuous compliance is going to be the most important factor, and how it performs, so that it becomes, while we talk about the continuous improvement in every aspect, even here we need to really look at the market surveillance, bringing that the continuous improvement in the product, system, services through the surveillance that is being done. While after all of this, what we really achieve is the public safety, the global trade, the economy to grow. Now, how do we really relate this to the future technologies, and how does this translate, or how does it really help us to bring the products or the systems to become a leader in the global market? What we really need to do. So, as we were all talking about, we should not be limiting ourselves to a very local standards. While local requirements are very relevant, it is important for us to look at what are the globally developed standards. There are international standards. There are standards which are globally developed with the inputs from all the countries and all the stakeholders. They have to be looked at. Let's try to harmonize it as much as possible. However, it is not always true that we would be able to harmonize all the standards. We may have to bring the country differences. That means to say, have the country differences being developed, incorporated in the standard. Now get into this conformity assessment, which is again harmonized, which is globally acceptable, so that the scheme that we are developing has taken consideration of all the quality parameters that is expected by the market, and which gets accredited by an recognized, globally recognized accreditation organization. This, when we combine all of them, is going to reach to the global trade. And definitely what world is looking at is not only just the economy. Economy is also part of the safety, security, and sustainability of the countries globe, as a globe across. So overall, what we have to really look at was, we are looking at the technologies being developed. The trade also has to be evolving along with that. The imperative that comes from the timeline, which is shrinking in the technology development area, because they are at a much faster rate. Even we as the professionals, we as the organizations here, have to really make sure that we are keeping in pace with the evolving technologies. And standards cannot take 6 years, 3 years or 4 years for them to develop and say, okay, come on, let's have this standard now. By then the technology would have become irrelevant. Similarly, the conformity assessment schemes have to start immediately when the standards are being developed. So overall, the time is the essence, and how do we make sure that we are in pace is through not to reinvent the whole wheel. Let's look around the world and adopt the standards, adopt the schemes, start working on it. So there are few technologies which all of us are knowing, and we know there are very few standards. I mean, if I really put any other product which has been already there, like if I put a IC engine product, yeah, I'll be able to run all these slides only just listing the standards. Whereas now with the new technologies that are like artificial intelligence, the machine learning, there are very few standards. Again, if I talk about UL 4600, which is for the autonomous vehicles and the artificial intelligence, which has gone through the various revisions. It has 3 editions have already been done, and there are ISO IEC standards which have been developed. Similarly, when I look at AR/VR, which is again quite vast, there are only one, to my understanding, there is only one standard, which is UL 8400. A cyber security standard, which all of us are talking about. We also talked about the data security, the overall the security with the Internet of Things that is coming in. There are definitely need for standards which addresses each and every element, because no more any product is individual product. It is all interconnected. Every product is interconnected now, and there is always a possibility for any kind of cyber threat that can come. So if you look at the magnitude of the product and the number of standards that we have, is still we need to really work a lot, which means to say the time that is being taken for standards development and then coming out with the conformity assessment scheme is not sufficient. We need to be much faster. The circular economy, which we are talking about as the ESG, the sustainability, again, the standards are not completely evolved. Only standard today that has been evolved when it comes to the circular economy is UL 3600. However, ISO standard is still at the stage where probably we expect this standard to be out this year. There are leader standards which complements the artificial intelligence or the autonomous vehicles. So if we start listing all the new technologies, there are going to be n number of standards which we need to develop. So at the end, why we need to look at is how do we develop the standards which helps the future technologies to be safer, which goes to the global market, reaches the global market with enhancing the global trade for India. So as a summary, what I would like to present here is opportunities for us in India, as we are really taking quite a lot of leadership positions. We should be able to do the same thing by developing the standards. Let us collaborate, adopt or adapt the standards, and wherever we have indigenously, we need the standards. Let's develop those standards. Let us strengthen the Indian standards development ecosystem through the accrediting various standards development organizations to develop the standards, strengthen the national standardization bodies' work. One more thing which I also would like to mention here is that the participation from all the subject matter experts, all the stakeholders, which I think 𝐒𝐮𝐩𝐲 is also mentioned, that is going to be a bigger challenge. I think all of us have to really take cognizance of that and participate in the standards development, so that the standards that are being developed, or even if it is adopted or adapted, is made relevant for Indian context and also helps the market to reach the global market. Let's also look at, I think this already Mrutyunjay has talked about. However, just to talk about, let's have the conformity assessment scheme, which is the programs which are accredited, and these schemes are well in line with the global conformity assessment schemes. So with that, I thank you very much. Thanks once again for the opportunity given.
Thank you, 𝐒𝐮𝐻𝐲, for providing a very beautiful outlay of all the digital related standards, and also the opportunity what we have from the perspective of our country as India, how we can emerge as a very strong force in the near future in the digital standards formulations as well as in conformance. So I think it was a very nice think which hearing from you about the AR/VR and the cyber security related standards. I think we have a lot of standards related to Indian standards itself, or many related to cyber security on par with ISO IEC. I think I'm not exaggerating. That's the insight that what we have got from you. Really, we are very thankful to you for taking pains to assimilate all this data and present it in a nutshell in a very short span of time. And thank you very much. Thank you very much, Manjunath.
Thank you very much, sir. Sir, I would be taking leave because I have another meeting. If there are any questions, I would be more than happy to answer.
Yeah,
even
maybe
offline
what
as-
we will do, we will normally the question and session Q&A will be at the fag end of the session. We'll post all the questions to you through mail so that you can answer those questions. We'll post it on our portal.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
So now we'll move on to the next speaker of today's World Accreditation Day celebrations event. I'm happy to introduce 𝐓𝐨𝐻𝐜𝐜𝐫𝐞, who is the Director of Global Accreditation Bureau. He is with us, and he is a mechanical engineer with a PG diploma in renewable energy, having overall 50 years of experience in industry in various sectors in public, private, and multinational companies, accreditation, project-based mechanisms, etc. And the former Secretary General of 𝐒𝐮𝐩𝐬𝐜 Quality Council of India, and established NABCB in India and became the signatory to MRA with APAC and IAF for QMS. He is presently based in Qatar, supporting to establish accreditation body in Qatar for greenhouse gas and management systems and inspection bodies and laboratories, etc. So really, we are happy to have you with us, sir, today. And today he will be presenting his thought process about the voice of foreign accreditation bodies, especially on how accreditation will support GHG related trade, which is really a hot topic, which everybody I think will be eagerly looking for the thought process of Shri Vijay Kumarji. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Ramkumar. Thank you so much for inviting me for this presentation. Let me share the screen. Can you see the screen?
Yes,
Yeah, I can see the screen. Yeah,
full screen
Yeah,
mode,
just a
please.
minute.
yeah, you can
Not this one.
put it on. Yeah, now it's visible, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, sir.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, what I'll do is I am very briefly talk about a little bit about GAB as well. A little bit about myself because the bullet points which I gave is just in a nutshell. Global Accreditation Bureau, which I'm representing today, here is a very new accreditation body. We got established in 2020, and we are going through our process of MRA at this stage because we have to go through those situations. The objective of this GAB to be established in Qatar was that Qatar had embarked on a journey to establish a greenhouse gas program, which was looking at somebody who could support them to approve their verifiers. And like CDM had their own accreditation program, and they couldn't really find how to manage this. So they decided that they will establish an accreditation body in Qatar to start with GHG. So we announced our program in GHG first. And then is the screen missing? Screen has disappeared?
Yes, sir. I think you are talking. Share it.
I'll have to share it again.
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
a minute.
yeah. Yeah, now it's visible, sir. Yeah.
Now it's visible?
Yeah, it's visible. Yeah.
Right. So it seems probably something went wrong in here. Now, this GAB that we established, we initially started our scheme with the greenhouse gases. But as you know, it's a chicken and egg story that you are not MRA signatory, so we cannot come to you. And so anyway, with some efforts, we were able to get some bodies who are willing to come in, and we simultaneously announced our management system schemes as well, which is QMS, EMS, and OHSMS. That's brief about it, and nothing much to say. The next part about myself, that I was the first Secretary General for Quality Council of India. Actually, I started the organization, and having worked with them for about 5 years, then I got opportunity to move to UNFCCC, and I became a founder member of the accreditation panel in UNFCCC. And then I moved over to Germany for about five and a half years. I was there in Germany. After I had retired from UNFCCC, had gone through looking at the process, because I got involved right in 2002. And I saw the evolving of the greenhouse gas clean development mechanism, the CDM, which is called, contributed at various stages to methodologies, to accreditation, to DOE accreditations, assessments, etc. Then I was back in India, retired from UN, and was comfortably working for NABCB as a resource for them. Then people who were setting up this greenhouse gas scheme in Qatar, they got in touch with me, and I landed in Qatar since about 2019. Now I'm here, and that's what how the process has gone. I'll come to the subject which you have given to me. I will not talk about much about the accreditation, the process, the MRAs, the standard development, all those things, because my fellow members have covered most of these subjects in the beginning. So I'm coming straight to the subject. The point which I want to say is, what do we understand by GHG related trade, you know? So what I see from GHG related trade is there is an element, something called as green finance or climate finance. A number of names have been given, where the funds which are provided by various banks, those funds are invested in those projects which are doing activities related to climate change, you know, by supporting the climate, reducing the effect of the climate change. The next one, this is generally covered in a framework standard which is called 14097, which tells how to go about it. But again, this is one type of trade in the sense that, which tells the banks that they can, and many banks are also saying that if you put your money into green events, then they are likely to give you maybe 0.25% or a 0.5% interest extra. So those type of situations are there. Then comes the emissions trading, in which this emission trading was started with the CDM. When this Kyoto Protocol was established in 1997, they had come up with an arrangement that if you set up a project which is not business as usual and is able to reduce the intensity of carbon dioxide generation, then those projects can be registered and they can save those emissions can then be traded. Whatever saved emissions, they can be traded in the market. And they established their registry as well, where all those emission reductions were recorded, and they established a system of transferring that. This simultaneously at that time, the emission trading scheme of Europe had also started, because that was going parallelly. wherein UN was doing UNFCCC and Europe brought their own scheme that how can they go look at this situation? We must have our own scheme. So they brought in their own scheme and they assigned certain, every industry sectors, how much emissions they can give per ton of their production. And then accordingly, they will have to compensate it from people who are saving it. And this emission trading was done. Then came the other standard 14061, which talked about carbon footprint of the products. Now, this carbon footprint says that each unit of the product when you produce, you are having 3 scopes of the emissions in that. Scope 1, scope 2, scope 3. Scope 1 is something which is under your direct control. Scope 2 is also easily measurable, but you are like if you import electricity or you buy electricity from outside, that becomes a scope 2 for you. And scope 3 is the life cycle related emissions, which is not very easy to talk about on scope 3 because very difficult to quantify how much it is going to be. And this was the standard. And then it talked about number of things called product category rules in which they need to do it. Of late, there are other things which are coming in: net zero event management, sustainability of the events. There are standards available. One is, there is a guidance document which I've indicated, which is IWA 42. This is open to public, and it is an ISO document which tells about what should be the net zero event management system. Similarly, there's another standard which talks about this sustainability of events, which is 210121. Sorry, 20121, not 21, 20121. And there are a number of other schemes. People start giving renewable energy certificates, and lot many things are moving in the market. Which, as my previous speaker said, that our standard should also be able to match the developments which are taking place in the market. And this is creating a position of proliferation of the market. And people who come in the first tend to make the initial money, and then the rest of the people keep on struggling, you know. That's the way this trade is actually happening in the process. Go to the next slide. I am something wrong with my, yeah. What is common to this all activities of this situation? One is the planning. Planning part is done at the level of the regulator, at the level of the countries, at the level of the situation, that what we need to introduce. Then they start looking at the establishing a criteria and standards. So like they made a Kyoto Protocol in 1997. They came up with modalities and procedures in year 2000 something, which was in Marrakesh Accords, they brought it. So there were some establishment of, but then those criteria were not very detailed. So they in turn established the bodies who, and the UNFCCC has been working completely on that, on establishing the various criteria. A lot of methodologies came up, and the projects, the activities, how the validation verification is to be done. They have their own accreditation standards also for those DOEs who wanted to get it done. So it was new thing in the world. So people got onto the bandwagon very quickly. And then all of them, whatever the trade system are, they have 3 units which are common, which is monitoring, reporting, and verification. Because anything that you claim that you are saving emissions or you are reducing the carbon dioxide emissions into the atmosphere, you need to quantify that, which can be done through monitoring. Then you need to also tell people that you are doing it, so you have to report it properly. And then all this monitoring reporting has to be done as per the established criteria and standard. So that must be done. And then there is, we call it as the self-declaration of conformity, SDOC, which was talked by. So people can say And many of the companies, they issue their own annual reports saying that they are 90% of their energy use is from renewable sources. So they make their statements, you know. Now, not all statements require a verification from a third party, depending upon what you are generating, what system. So there has to be some system of verification that will bring in the credibility into the process. Otherwise, I can claim many things. I'll say I have 100% emissions, 100% renewable energy, but God only knows what is inside. So third-party verification becomes important at that time. Now, to this global trade that we are doing it, how does accreditation gets related to it? Is where we try to come in. The planning and establishing a criteria standard accreditation does not enter into that, because that is not part of their work. So I have actually made them in a smaller, means lighter font. But monitoring, reporting, and verification, they come under the accreditation itself. So the verification activity which is done actually make sure that the monitoring is done as per the requirement. They make sure that reporting is done as per the requirements. And then verification says that, yes, I have checked and they are doing it properly. And then comes to the real purpose of the accreditation, which is the confidence in the 𝐓𝐨𝐻𝐸 statement issued, which is based on the monitoring reported and verification by an accredited verifier. So that is where the confidence to the statement is given. But there is another small stop here, because the verification by accredited verifiers can be against standards, right? Now, the standards which are prevalent for these monitoring of the emissions of organizations or monitoring the emission reductions of projects, they are covered under standard 14064-1 and 14064-2. But both of these standards, they have a very clear statement in them, which says that 𝐓𝐻𝐸 program requirements are extra beyond to this. Now, what we need to understand is what is a 𝐓𝐻𝐸 program. So 𝐓𝐻𝐸 program is something which tells how to trade those emissions or how to monitor the emissions. And then I will take you to the next slide, that what standards are actually existing in the various situations, which talks about the standard which has been given for accreditation are ISO 17029, 14065, and 14066. These apply to the verifiers. These are the standard accreditation bodies use to make sure that the verifiers are complying to these requirements. Now, these requirements in turn, they are very similar to 17021, but definitely adapted to the greenhouse gas or environmental information or validation and verification. But the objectives are very similar. They need to be impartial. They need to be all those requirements which are required in a certification body. The same administrative requirements are in the validation verification body. The difference mainly remains is the competence and the process followed, because these are the two areas which are different for every scheme. The 14064 part 1, this talks about emission verification for organizations. So organizations, they must monitor their verifications as per 14064-1. But if there is a program like 𝐒𝐮𝐩𝐸 ETS program, then 𝐒𝐮𝐩𝐸 ETS program can specify their own requirements, which the organizations must follow. So they will become additional to this. Next is the 14064-2, which is for emission validation and verification of projects. Now, this is specifically for projects, and those projects which are being implemented to reduce emissions from business as usual situations. Now, that's again, though it is very easy to say business as usual, but the parameter to identify how it is not how it is business as usual or how it is not business as usual is a very debatable item. And the term which CDM has used for that is additionality. So the projects need to be additional and not as a normal project. If I am doing a normal production, I can't call it as project. Then comes the standard 14061 carbon footprint. Now this carbon footprint talks about that there was an issue that the product should be labeled with the carbon footprint of the situation. And this was one of the possible barriers to trade. And it was becoming even more difficult for the products manufactured by many multinational companies. Same product is being manufactured in different countries, and their requirement of the carbon, their carbon footprint varies, even though the product is same, but varies from the point of production. So presently this carbon footprint is not been regulated as yet, and it is not a requirement. So people are not, but depending upon the countries, and as we go further into the slides, there are certain areas these things are going to come in slowly in the process. Then 14064-3 is a standard which talks about the process of validation and verification and how this process has to be done. And this is mainly for the greenhouse gases. Greenhouse gas, environmental information. These are terms which have been used because every technical committee which I have been, I was part of the subcommittee SC7 of the TC 207, where the standards were actually formulated. And I was part of the working group which drafted these standards. The focus was to expand the horizon of these standards and not limit to only greenhouse gases, but also make it to environmental information. And that environmental information again becomes a bit debatable point, but I think the standards have very clearly specified what will be considered as environmental information as not. For example, if I say that I'm ISO 9000, ISO 14001 certified, or I'm complying to ISO 14001, that is also a conformity of environmental statement. But then those type of statements have been excluded of this particular standard. We go to the next slide. Then comes the GHG programs, which are the real backbone of this whole GHG trade. The first one which is being listed is Clean Development Mechanism, which is a project-based mechanism. Though it is now on the actual effect of this CDM has actually come down very much, and new Paris Agreement has come in, and there are other clauses which are going to come in. So I'll talk about a little bit on that as well. But the basic thing in this carbon development, clean development mechanism was that there is a baseline that you have to determine, which is a requirement of 14064-2 also. Then from the baseline, you start implementing the project, and then you monitor your emissions. And then you say that you are reduced emissions with reference to the baseline. And then there are methodologies for project-based mechanisms. CDM has issued I think more than 100 methodologies exist, separate for large scale, separate for small scale projects. And all these are publicly available on the CDM website. People can get it. And then these are to be third-party verified statements. Now this third-party, in the case of CDM, they are third-party verified with the DOEs which are accredited by CDM. And for other national bodies, people have their own system of doing it. For the other programs, which I'll be talking to, they have their own system of how to approve the verifiers. Then the other program, which is most popular, is EU ETS, which is European Emission Trading Scheme. This is mainly based on 14064-1, where it talks about only the monitoring of the organization. And then they have to match the requirements given by the regulator. And if they are exceeding that requirement, then they have to buy from the market, which is EU ETS. And if they are meeting that, then they are happy, they don't have to do anything. If they are doing better than that, then they possibly can sell their emissions into the market. So that is the scheme which is brought about in EU ETS. All this is very brief in detail, but if you go into the schemes, they run in hundreds of pages. So please, I couldn't cover everything in such a small time. There is another program which has been brought in, which is, there are about 9 programs which are called as 𝐓𝐶 programs. They have approved these programs, GHG. 𝐓𝐶 stands for International Civil Aviation Organization is the first part, and CORSIA is the Carbon Offset Regulation Scheme for International Aviation. So what was happening is that the aeroplanes which are flying on the international waters, there who takes the responsibility of the emissions, whether the countries will have to include in their situation. So International Civil Aviation Organization came out with its own scheme, which is called as CORSIA, and they have put up where they have said presently in 2023, the trial phase is going on, and the compliance phase is to start from next year onwards. So this trial phase, they have indicated how to monitor the emissions of the airplane operators who are doing international routes. They are not discussing the domestic routes. So only international routes are covered in that. And then they had asked for applications of various programs to apply and be approved by them. And they have some certain requirements. So these 9 programs which have been approved by them, which has been listed here. The American Carbon, please, where people can read it. Where Global Carbon Council is one program, which is based in Qatar. This is one program out of these 9, which is in the south of in the southern equator. In the sense, what they say is the people below the European belt. Something is there in China. You have a China voluntary. Then CDM, it is already an international one. But again, and most of these programs are based in Europe or US. The only one which is based in an Asian country, sorry, China is also in Asia. And then in the particularly Middle East, GCC is the only one. And this GCC program actually is on the lines of how the CDM actually works. And it has got additional requirements related to SDGs, which is the social development goals, which you referred in your introductory presentations. And also the no net harm to environment and no net harm to social situation. And these are the requirements of the 𝐓𝐶. 𝐓𝐶 says that you must include these requirements as well as part of the program. So these have been included. So we are, as GAB, we are supporting GCC to be able to accredit verifiers on their behalf. So that is an activity that we do. Then we come to the next one. The post-CDM after 2020, there were 2 articles which are brought into the Paris Agreement, which is Article 6.2, which is for cooperative arrangements. These cooperative arrangements can be bilateral. It can be country A versus country B. A from mostly from the developed countries, and B, the recipient or the people who are selling the emissions can be in a developing country, which is B. So they can establish a cooperative mechanism between themselves, establish projects, have a robust monitoring system of their own, and then do it. But then now they are working on what conditions they need to meet to establish these cooperative approaches. And these cooperative approaches can be used to balance their nationally determined emissions statements, So those are the system. And 6.4 is the voluntary emission reductions, which is the same as CDM, but with a new name. Now it is called as voluntary emission reductions. The complete system of the CDM is now working on preparing the requirements and guidelines and how the process is to be worked on. So this is going on. And accreditation basically supports the quality of the emission reductions. That is, now because this earlier the CDM was doing it for CDM only. Now multiple other programs have come in, and then these programs, whether their emissions are equivalent or not, is a big issue. So the what accreditations can do is support the quality of the emission reductions based on the program requirements. The accreditation does not define its own requirements. They only say that we will accredit you based on the program requirements. So that is how the system works. Now this brings in challenges for the accreditation. The very first challenge that I see which is coming from the equivalence of GHG programs. The sample of that we are seeing in 𝐒𝐜𝐜𝐜𝐿, where 𝐒𝐜𝐜𝐜𝐜 is monitoring the quality of the programs. So they have said that the programs have to submit their requirements, they submit their system, and then they evaluate it. They obtain public comments on those, and then based on those comments, they approve. They are presently they are talking about, out of the 9 which I have showed you, 2 have been approved for the next phase. Balance about 7 are still under the evaluation and approval for the next phase, which starts from next year onwards, which is the compliance phase. Now, compliance phase also, depending upon the various countries, there are people voluntary compliance which are taken in, they will come in, but they are not applicable to every country. But slowly, somewhere in about after about 26 or so, more and more countries will come into the ambit of this 𝐒𝐜𝐜𝐜𝐜. So equivalence of programs is going to be a major issue which will continue to remain, and it will be a problem. The multiplicity of programs, in the sense, particularly the cooperative approaches where countries are going to do it, how the accreditation bodies do it, how they treat those situations, what guidelines come from the supervisory committee, which is now working on the Paris Agreement and Article 6.2 and 6.4. So that will have to be done. And there is also an unequal level of oversight of different GHG programs. To start with, I can give you the CDM program started the oversight by every project which are registered was actually being reviewed within this CDM secretariat, UNFCCC secretariat, and a summary note was prepared and the projects were returned back to them. Other programs, I am not very much aware. I'm aware of GCC, but not of everybody. So I will not talk about it at this stage. But I am aware that there is an unequal oversight of different GHG programs. And there is also the quality of the verifiers which are actually doing the verification. That is an issue which is also to be looked at. Next slide will tell you to what is the real challenge to and how the GHG emission certifications are different from the management system certification. Now, in case of a management system certification, whatever you do, you just get if I'm an ISO 9000, 14000, 45000 certified, I only get eligibility to quote to the customer. I still have to meet the price of the customer I still have to meet the quality of the customer specified one. But when it comes to the GHG emissions, the moment I verifier certifies them, an approved certifier, the moment he certifies and the emissions are registered as units, they are saleable. So the certificate is actually sold. The product, the certificate becomes the product. So it becomes very difficult. It's like you are giving somebody permission to print money for them. So it's something which has to be very seriously controlled, because no other certificate which you say will become where you can sell it. Because even if your product is certified, and you say product is certified, does not mean still the product has to perform. But here, if you say my emissions are certified, you can straight away sell it. So there is no product in between. So that difference has to be understood. And the last thing that comes in is that accreditation is highly dependent on trust in the intentions of the project owners, accredited entities, and the accreditation bodies. All these are the three players which is existing: project owners who own the project, the accredited entities which are validation verification bodies, they verify these, and the accreditation bodies. So the trust in their activities is what is going to drive this. But you know, the certification business, and even where this is just management system certification, people talked about that there is a plethora of certificates which are fake. We have a big challenge in front of us, because here, by the time you find it is fake, it would have already been sold and people would have made money out of it. So this has to be looked at. I think I'm almost at the end of my. The other thing that I see here is that the GHG carbon footprint of carbon emissions, it can become a major trade barrier. CBAM, I think Mr. Kaul already talked about it, is called as Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism, which is by European Union, and from 2046 they are going to bring it in. And most of the countries are actually now fighting to see how they can dissuade CBAM to European countries, or how best we can meet, how best we can. And the accreditation can be helpful if mutual recognition verification is accepted by various parties involved. Because there is a talk that Indian government has said that we will approach European Commissions to approve our carbon trading mechanism, which is still in the formation. Very difficult to say how, but once it is established, the quality of the accreditation will be able to help these mutual recognitions. And I think consultants, the verifiers, the validation verification bodies, the project owners, the governments, and the accreditation bodies, everybody put together, if they do not show that they are trustworthy, then they think there's going to fall like a pack of cards, and then we will be again floundering and trying to see how the system is working. With that, I would like to close it. I'm not saying that the situation is bad, but I'm precaution that we must look at, that it is important that we must go through it. We are talking about world market. We are not talking about a country. We are not, and my country where I am today is a very small country, a blip, and can in no way compare with the people who are doing it. Thank you so much for the thought process which has come in. Okay. Thank you for this opportunity to speak about it.
Thank you very much, sir, for that wonderful presentation about GHG trade and related standards, and also the compliance, and also the schemes which is related to GHG. And very rightly, you have pointed out that the seriousness in which these GHG certificates have to be dealt with the difference between a management system certificate and a GHG certificate, I think it's a hotcake sales when you get when you are certified with a GHG verifier compliance. So I think as a consultants, we have a larger role to play, and the integrity and also the trust and also the credibility is very, very important in such schemes. And the image of the company, the image of the country, everything is at it has to be preserved while dealing with these type of certifications. And you are driven the point in a very nice manner, and it was very educative to all of us to know the different standards of GHG, in fact, be a carbon footprint or the other related standards. Thank you very much, sir, for taking pains, and you have, within a very short time you have covered, I think, almost you've done more than the justice to this topic what you have taken. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being.
Yeah. So now let me welcome the next speaker of today's event. So I welcome Mr. 𝐒𝐮𝐩𝐲𝐬, Executive Director, Egyptian Accreditation Council, 𝐒𝐮𝐩𝐸, and he is an engineer by qualification, and he is an Executive Director of 𝐒𝐮𝐸𝐸 for the past 11 years, and he is the head of the Accreditation Committee in 𝐒𝐮𝐸𝐸 and representative of the government sector and expert of certification bodies, inspections, personnel, product, and halal scheme. And we are really happy to have him here. And I welcome a warm welcome on behalf of CCC to him. Welcome, sir. And he is going to share his thought process on how accreditations, particularly foreign accreditation bodies, are going to help Indian businesses with the global trade opportunities. Over to you, sir. So, Mr. 𝐒𝐮𝐸𝐸.
Yeah, I guess he's not there. Just trying to check. Yes. Mr. 𝐒𝐿𝐵𝐿𝐵𝐿, Mr. 𝐒𝐮𝐸𝐸, you're not there? Okay, just right. No, he's actually there in the session.
Yeah, he's available now.
Mr. 𝐒𝐿𝐵𝐿𝐵𝐿, Mr. 𝐒𝐮𝐸𝐸?
Mr. 𝐒𝐮𝐸𝐸, can you hear us?
No, is there an audio actually? Right, he's on. Maybe, or can we check with Patrick? Is there?
Yeah, I think Patrick just came on screen. Mr. Patrick? Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I'm just trying to
Okay,
check.
we'll move on to Patrick. Then maybe if 𝐒𝐮𝐸𝐸 comes online, we can have 𝐒𝐮𝐸𝐸 on this show. So in this session, then now a warm welcome to Mr. Patrick. On behalf of CCC, we welcome you, sir. And
Thank you very much.
let me introduce you for a brief introduction about you. If you can allow me to just say a few words about you. So Patrick J. McClellan is a senior program manager, management system certification body, Accreditation, International Accreditation Service, IAS, United States of America, USA. And he's a bachelor's degree in English language and Master of Business Administration in Engineering or Industrial Management, self-employed professional in public relations and market research for a decade. He started his career as an accreditation specialist in IAS and is a senior programs manager for management system certification bodies over 8+ years. So over to you, sir. Thank you, sir. Warm welcome to you.
Very much. It's my pleasure to be presenting today in front of the consortium of Chennai on behalf of International Accreditation Service. I'm here to talk to everybody today about accreditation, Indian business, and how accreditation can help reach further global opportunities. As Mr. Ramkumar mentioned, I've been working with IAS for approximately 9 years now. In my new role as Senior Program Manager, I've been doing that for about 2 years, running the Management Systems Certification Body Program. It's been a very interesting time working with IAS and working with the global conformity assessment community. And I'm happy to be here to share some of the things I've learned with you. A little bit about IAS before I begin. We currently accredit 68 conformity assessment bodies in more than 20 accreditation programs throughout India. 8 years ago, that number was fewer than 20. So we've seen some significant growth and interest coming out of India. And globally, companies are turning towards India as confidence in product manufacturing and service quality increases. We have Indian conformity assessment bodies in our management system certification body program, our testing lab program, calibration, inspection, et cetera, et cetera. So it's been a really good decade for India as regarding the growth in the international market, and specifically regarding growth in being recognized through international conformity assessment. Okay, so today we're talking about accreditation. We're talking about accreditation's impact on business and how it helps promote businesses to the global community. Okay. The basic standpoint of accreditation is that accreditation demonstrates competence. Okay, competence to conduct accredited activities such as management system certification, person certification, product certification. Competence is the knowledge and skills required to do something and the ability to apply those knowledge and skills. Okay, when you are knowledgeable and skilled with something, it helps you build trust with those who use your services, with those who purchase your products. Okay, trust is essential in any kind of a relationship, whether it be a personal relationship or a business relationship. The foundation of relationships are trust. Competence builds trust. It's very easy to trust someone when you know that they have the knowledge and skills and the ability to apply those knowledge and skills in a meaningful manner. Trust creates opportunity. Okay. It's very common in business, right? I want to meet you face to face, right? For our virtual meeting here today, that's kind of a funny topic, but there's a need to meet business partners, to shake hands, okay, to share a meal, to share some tea. Okay, this trust that we build then creates these opportunities. Okay, it's very uncommon for a business relationship to just begin with opportunity without first having that trust building time in that relationship. In today's world, opportunity is global. Okay, so through accreditation, we demonstrate our competence to conduct whichever activity we are conducting. Through demonstrating that competence to the world, we build trust. Okay, by building that trust, we create opportunity, and opportunity is global in today's marketplace. Okay, I think this is the exact same statement, the exact same message that we've heard from at least the past 4 or 5 speakers since I've been on the call. I'm elated to hear that from all these different speakers, from all these different points of view. It's great to see that. Why does global opportunity start with accreditation? Okay, as I mentioned, accreditation, third-party attestation of competence. Okay, you have the knowledge and skills and the ability to apply those skills, and that conformity assessment bodies meet a minimum standard of operation. That standard will be different for different activities. We have ISO 17021-1 for management system certification bodies, ISO AC 17025, okay, for testing labs, 17020 inspection agencies, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so accreditation is serving two main purposes: third-party attestation of competence, and that conformity assessment bodies conform to a minimum standard of operation. Now, I did see one question a little bit earlier regarding the MRA, MLA. What's the difference? Why do we have these different arrangements? So I just wanted to quickly speak about the APAC Mutual Recognition Arrangement. Okay, this is a regional cooperation, all right, of certain countries, certain membership bodies, ABs, CABs, etc. Okay, this is a regional cooperation. All right, this is the Asia Pacific Accreditation Cooperation, as opposed to the IAF Multilateral Recognition Arrangement and the ILAC Mutual Recognition Arrangement. Both the IAF and the ILAC arrangements are worldwide recognition programs. Okay, so membership got together and said ABs from this part of the world are going to recognize ABs from this part of the world through the implementation of this multilateral or mutual recognition arrangement. APAC, on the other hand, again, is a regional cooperation. These countries have joined together. We are surrounding a certain geographical area, a certain region, and we are working together to support one another's global trade arrangements. Okay, so accreditation allows cross-frontier export-import of products and services. Okay, it makes for a reduction in technical barriers to trade. I believe there was another question earlier about technical barriers to trade and regarding accreditation versus specific recognition from a regulator. Okay. The aim of the IAF, the aim of the ILAC is to reduce this need for an additional recognition by a regulator. Okay, we are working on it. We're getting there every year. Regulators are more and more accepting of IAF and ILAC. And thankfully, we have the World Trade Organization, Article 6 on the Agreement on Technical Barriers to Trade, which states that results of conformity assessment procedures of members are accepted, okay, through accreditation as an indication of technical competence. Okay, this is the World Trade Organization Agreement on TBT, Article 6. Okay, so we have accreditation, we have our regional cooperation, and we have our worldwide recognition groups. We also have the support of the World Trade Organization. We also have the support of many regulators and many governments worldwide. Okay, accreditation is a one-stop for worldwide recognition of a particular service. Thus, through accreditation, we have accredited certification, accredited testing, calibration, inspection, greenhouse gas validation and verification. Okay. These are levels of trust. We are building levels of trust. Okay. Start with IAF, worldwide, come down to APAC, regional, come down to the AB, okay, come down to the CAB, Conformity Assessment Body, and then finally we get to the end users or the organizations that are getting certified, which then passes that trust all the way down to the end users of certified products and services. Okay, it's a hierarchical arrangement of trust. That's what it's all about. Some trends in global business that really cement kind of what we've all been talking about today, the importance of accreditation, the importance of conformity assessment, the importance of recognizing international standards, okay? Offshore manufacturing, right? Outsourcing to other countries, okay? The global marketplace. Without equivalence of products and services, it's impossible, okay? Beyond the fact that, you know, here in America, we've got a completely different measurement system than much of the rest of the world. When we produce certain products, when we provide services, the whole point of a global infrastructure of conformity assessment is that services provided from the United States, services provided from Mexico, services provided from India are equivalent. Products manufactured United States, Mexico, India, China, they're equivalent. Okay, this is what the global conformity assessment infrastructure attempts to do. And accreditation to these international standards promotes this equivalence. Second point here, accreditation and accredited certification. In the past, probably 10 years, especially, we've seen an acceleration as accreditation and accredited certification as preconditions to bidding on tenders and projects worldwide. If you are not accredited as a conformity assessment body, you will likely not get that bid. You will not get that tender. You will not get that project. Okay. If you do not hold an accredited certification for your product, it is very unlikely that your product will be accepted without further need for testing and certification when it is exported. Same thing for systems, same thing for persons. Okay, personnel certification, when it is accredited, we get confidence. We build that trust. Okay, again, this is all about a system of trust that can be exported globally. Finally, a third trend that's very important here. Organizations that outsource processes, okay, they rely on accreditation, on accredited certification to know that the organizations that they are outsourcing to, that they are purchasing from, are creating a quality product consistently. Okay, very important. When you're a manufacturing organization, okay, you're buying many pieces. You're buying paints, you're buying mixes, you're buying chemicals, you're buying steel, okay, all these various inputs to your output, and you need to control those suppliers. Are you going to go do a second party audit each and every time you get a new supplier? Probably not. It's cost prohibitive. Okay, so instead of flying out your auditor, you say, are you certified? If you're certified, is that certification accredited? Okay, that builds that trust. That reduces that need for a second party audit of suppliers. Okay, that builds the value of accreditation. Okay, that builds the value of accredited certification. Indian economy is on track for increased success. Okay, I'm happy to say I've been keeping a very close eye on India over the past 5 years or so. So I'm very happy to say that all signs are pointing towards a positive growth period. JP Morgan, okay, raised 2024 growth projection for India's economy from 5 to 5.5%. Okay, just a couple days ago. Excellent, right? Especially after the contraction caused by COVID. We're all hoping for a good turnaround. 6.1% quarterly growth in Q1 of 2023. Okay, India remains one of the fastest growing emerging economies, even amid a global slowdown. Okay, other countries are not experiencing such phenomenal quarterly growth. This is excellent. Okay, this shows that India is being recognized as a growing emerging economy, as a global player in the business landscape. Exports in USD as of just a couple of days ago, 400 billion coming out of India, okay, as opposed to the regional average of 250 billion. I don't think I need to say more on that point, right? That's an excellent indicator of global growth, okay? Now, what are the challenges that I've been able to find? Lack of standardization, a lack of a quick export-import process, okay? International standards, implementation of standardization, okay? I did quite a bit of research trying to find what the folks in India are considering the main technical barriers to trade, and what folks outside of India are considering to be the main technical barriers to trade of working with India. Okay, the overwhelming majority talk about a lack of standardization, a lack of implementation of standardization. Okay, as many have mentioned, there are a number of Indian standards now. That's excellent. Okay, The next step is we need to move towards better implementation, towards more consistent implementation across the economy. Quick export-import processes. This goes back to that question that's on the Q&A right now. Why do I need to be recognized by a regulator when my lab is already accredited? Okay, this is, again, the aim of the IAF, the aim of ILAC is to get those regulators to not require special registration and to instead accept accreditation, thus speeding up the export-import process. Okay, again, lack of standardization. I think that's why we're all here today, right? Happy World Accreditation Day. Okay, the whole point of the conformity assessment infrastructure is to support the implementation of standardization and international standards worldwide. Accreditation and accredited certification demonstrates that India is ready to meet the other economies' demands by implementing these international standards. Okay, this demonstration, by participating in the global conformity assessment infrastructure, by implementing the international standards, this will create more economic opportunity for India in the emerging global marketplace. Okay, again, accreditation, accredited certification, there are countless case studies out there, okay, that show the value, that show the monetary value, okay, that show the trust value, that show the growth value of accreditation and accredited certification. Okay, I fully support and believe that India is on the precipice of a significant economic opportunity on the global stage, and all signs that I have seen from various economic analysis groups, things like that. Okay, the world is eager to invest in India and in Indian businesses. Okay, the world is ready. All right, is India ready for the world? Okay. Hey, that's all I had for you today. I had a short presentation, short time just to speak with all of you. I hope that you got some value out of my presentation. I'd love to speak with any of you further. Any questions, anything like that, please do shoot me an email. Always happy to speak with any of you about the conformity assessment infrastructure, and of course about the benefits of accreditation and accredited certification. Thank you all for coming on behalf of IAS and the Consultants Consortium of Chennai. Really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you all today. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, Mr. Patrick, for your wonderful presentation about the accreditation and also the challenges what as India we are facing. You have highlighted it, the need for standardization, and also though we are really growing economically globally, I think that there are few challenges which really we have to consider and we have to move upon. And thanks for highlighting all those things. Thanks for taking pains to prepare this presentation and presenting it to all of us this evening. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Patrick. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. So now I request Mr. Abdul Halim to introduce Mr. Hani.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Please accept my apology and the apologies of Mr. Hani Dessouky, as he has received a sudden engagement in the ministry in the past 2 hours. I will introduce his presentation. I am Mohammed Hassan Abdul Halim. I'm the General Manager of Information Technology in 𝐒𝐮𝐩𝐬 and supervising the international relations and the recognition of international and regional organizations. May I share the screen?
Yeah, please.
Okay, thank you. Okay, is it okay now?
It's visible. Yeah, okay.
Thank you. Egyptian Accreditation Council is the sole accreditation body in Egypt. It was established in 1996 and was reorganized by the Egyptian government in 2006 to give 𝐒𝐲𝐸 the impartiality, the administrative and technical, besides, of course, the financial impartiality. 𝐒𝐲𝐸 started its work in accreditation since 2004, and we accredited our first conformity assessment body in 2004. He searched for recognition starting from 2007. In 2009, 𝐒𝐲𝐸 could achieve recognition from ILAC and IAF in 5 scopes of accreditation: accreditation of testing laboratories, calibration laboratories, inspection bodies, medical laboratories, and of course, the management system certification. After that, in the past 15 years, we extended our scope. We are now accrediting. We are now giving accreditation in 11 scope of accreditation, including besides testing, calibration, medical inspection, and management system certification. Another 6 scopes, which are product certification, person certification, halal products, proficiency testing providers, what else? Of course, besides inspection, biobanking and forensic laboratories. We are recognized in 9 scopes of them. Only 2 scopes still not recognized, which are biobanking and forensic activities. 𝐒𝐲𝐸, besides its international recognition, is recognized regionally from AFRAC, and AFRAC is the African Accreditation Cooperation. It is the regional accreditation body in Africa, in the same scope exactly as ILAC and IAF. Besides ARAC, the Arab Accreditation Cooperation, it is the regional accreditation body of the Arab League. Besides, in 2019, we could sign the bilateral agreement with European accreditation in the scope of proficiency testing providers. According to this recognition, we are recognized from international from ILAC, according to the recognition of EA. 𝐒𝐲𝐸, besides his accreditation departments, he has, of course, an independent financial department and independent administrative. Although 𝐒𝐲𝐸 is a governmental organization, but he is independent on all its scopes of accreditation, its accreditation decision, and its financial issues and administrative issues. 𝐒𝐲𝐸 accreditation procedure consists of, as follows. As you see, the application process, and then we introduce the document review for the system of the conformity assessment body. If necessary, we are giving a pre-assessment visit, if it's optional, according to the decision of the accreditation department. Then we carry out the assessment visit with the assessment team. After finalizing the non-conformities and all findings to be closed, the technical committee gives the recommendation of accreditation, and the high accreditation committee then can give the accreditation decision. It is the external committee has a monthly meeting in 𝐒𝐲𝐸 to accredit, to suspend, to withdraw, to extend, to reduce the scope of accreditation. Of course, that's the accreditation scopes of 𝐒𝐲𝐸. the ISO standard 17025 for testing and calibration, ISO 15189 for medical laboratories. We are giving accreditation in management for management system certification in quality management system, environmental management systems, and food safety management system, besides, of course, the energy management system, anti-bribery management system, and the inspection bodies for 17020, persons for according to 17024, product certification according to 17065, proficiency testing providers accreditation according to 17043. This in addition, of course, the biobanking 2387 and 17025 and 17024, both for the forensic accreditation. We are giving halal accreditation according to the GSO standards. GSO standards also, as you know, for 𝐓𝐸𝐾 organization. 𝐒𝐮𝐩𝐽𝐢 is one of the quality infrastructure pillars in Egypt. We have another two pillars, which are the standardization. It's EOS, Egyptian Organization for Standardization. And for metrology, it is the National Institute for Standard. Of course, we have many conformity assessment bodies. We have an independent body for customer protection. All our pillars, including 𝐒𝐮𝐩𝐽𝐢, NIS, and EOS, are related to the international level and are recognized from their international organizations. This is the international quality and the national quality infrastructure of Egypt. 𝐒𝐮𝐩𝐽𝐢 accredited many conformity assessment bodies in Egypt and outside Egypt. We are now almost about 700, about 25 conformity assessment bodies. We are accrediting outside Egypt in many countries, according, of course, to the cross-frontier policy of ILAC and IF and our regional accreditation bodies in Sudan, in Niger, in Africa, and in Saudi Arabia, in Asia, besides, of course, Iraq and United Arab Emirates, Lebanon, India, Jordan, and Kuwait, besides the other conformity assessment bodies in Germany and Italy. 𝐒𝐮𝐽𝐽𝐢 carried out multiple accreditations on behalf of another accreditation bodies like UCAS, United Kingdom Accreditation Services, ANAP, FINES, 𝐒𝐮𝐩𝐽𝐢, and Accredia. 𝐒𝐮𝐽𝐽𝐢 has 3 twinning projects with EU to strengthen its accreditation capabilities. Actually, we have benefited from these twinning projects and established the Department of Proficiency Testing Providers, the Department of Product Certification, and the Department of Persons Certification. European Union provided 𝐒𝐮𝐽𝐽𝐢 with experts from European accreditation, which helped 𝐒𝐮𝐽𝐽𝐢 to establish its quality system and procedures for the new departments, and shared with 𝐒𝐮𝐽𝐽𝐢 the first assessment for the candidates for accreditation in product certification, in person certification, and for proficiency testing providers. Actually, in the last 3 years, especially, the acceleration of our accreditation process has been increased. This is due to the market in Egypt is now very aware of the importance of accreditation and to be signatory and to be recognized from international organizations. The importance for this recognized accreditation is very essential for the export process. Many of our companies, especially those who are working in manufacturing of products, electrical, gas, appliances, and ceramic, are very keen to and committed to still be accredited from 𝐒𝐲𝐸𝐜 as they are exporting, and this actually very influencing in the competitiveness of the capability of the product. As outside Egypt, the cost for conformity testings and testing results are very expensive. But in Egypt, as they are accredited, their laboratories are accredited from 𝐒𝐲𝐸𝐜, the cost is reduced many times than outside Egypt. Especially the Egyptian pound has problems with in comparison with another currencies like dollars and euros. The most of our accredited conformity assessment bodies are the testing laboratories. The second level is the calibration laboratories, then the medical, then the management system certification bodies, and then inspection, BT, professions testing providers, and the product and forensic. 𝐒𝐲𝐸𝐜 signed many memo of understanding with another accreditation bodies like that of Ethiopian, like that of Belarusia, and ANSI, Hungarian accreditation body, Uzbekistan accreditation bodies, and the Chinese accreditation bodies. We are now finalizing other memo of understanding with Brazilian accreditation body and with United Arab Emirates accreditation body and South African accreditation body. We are maintaining our international and regional recognition. We are, of course, recognized from ILAC and IF. Besides, regionally, we are recognized from AFRAC, ARAC, and European accreditation. We were almost to get our recognition from IHAV, the International Halal Accreditation Forum, but unfortunately another halal body was established a couple of weeks ago. We are aiming under OIC, the Organization of Islamic Countries. We are aiming now to submit to get recognition from this body to be recognized in halal accreditation. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for that wonderful presentation about Egypt accreditation, 𝐒𝐲𝐸𝐜, and also
Please again accept my apologies, as it was a surprise for me. Just Mr. Hani just called me about 1 hour ago.
No, we are happy that you joined.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I wish to you all a happy World Accreditation Day.
No, if you can come on a video, we can take one snap of all the panelists so that it will be on record.
Okay, sure. I'm here.
Yeah, I request all the panelists to come on video.
Okay, just a second, please. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not having my camera. It is
Okay.
my PC. My PC doesn't have a camera. I'm sorry.
Okay, okay, no issues, no issues.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you all.
So we have come to the fag end of the session of
We'll
today's
do a
event.
launch. Sorry. Ramkumar sir, I'm sorry, we have a poll.
Yeah,
Give me
yeah,
2 minutes. Yeah, sorry,
Yeah.
please continue. We'll just do a poll before we proceed with the Q&A.
yeah, yeah.
2 minutes.
Yeah.
Let's check.
So a poll is appearing on your screen.
Yeah.
So we request all the participants to participate in this poll, and we need your feedback about this program.
It's only for delegates. This is only for the delegates, not for
This
the
is only for
panelists.
the delegates and not for the panelists. And not for the panelists.
I request you all to take the poll. The feedback helps. Just quickly, 5 questions, objective type. It's launched. Yes, it is launched. Can you all see the poll?
Yeah, yeah, we are seeing that, madam. It's appearing.
Poll feedback, please. Last 2 sessions we had good feedback.
So if you have to respond,
Absolutely. Actually, is there
Yeah.
any a difficulty in responding? I don't think so. Just a second.
it will not take much.
Yeah, it's given
much
already.
time.
Is it feedback
Yeah,
given? Maybe
Yeah,
it's
good.
not.
Thank you, Mr.
Yeah,
Jose.
thank you. Let the poll be there. Aarti, you closed it, is it? Let it run for 2 minutes. Aarti,
Yes, ma'am.
let it be
It's
there.
not closed, yeah.
Let the poll be there for 2 or 3 more minutes. Don't close it.
Okay, ma'am.
Only 50–60% participants giving feedback, we can close it. It's 2 minutes and then you can close it.
Okay, ma'am.
And now I can see that.
We request those who have not responded to the poll, please.
I'm unable to see, or maybe you, since you launched it, Aarti, you will be knowing, I guess. Right. Okay, it's another 2 minutes.
Okay,
We can
okay.
actually close it. We'll proceed with the Q&A. Thank you.
Yeah. So quickly, let me go through the Q&A which we have received during this session. Question from Mr. Sivaram Sundaramurthy Reddy. He says, I'm a doctor text holder in healthcare management and also chairman Institute Human Ethics Committee at Pondicherry with pharma marketing. How I can add value? This question is to Dr. Rana, sir.
Dr. Rana is there?
Yeah, I think he's there.
Yes. Maybe we'll go to the next question. When he joins, we can ask him to answer.
Okay. So next question is from Jamyang Punsho. In organic world for accreditation of CVs, how is IFOAM associated with the IAF or ILAC? I think this question is to Sri Jainaji. Jainaji, you have to unmute. You have to unmute, Jainaji. Sorry.
Yes. So can you please repeat the IFO?
The question is, in organic world accreditation of CBs, there is how is IFOAM
It's there in the Q&A, Gina ji. Can you just check
Yeah.
the Q&A? Maybe it's
associated
easy.
with IAF or ILAC?
Okay.
Can I speak till he looks at it? I can give this
Q&A.
answer.
Yeah, maybe
Yeah,
one
yeah,
of you can answer.
Yeah,
The
please.
IFOAM is an organization which is talking about the organic certification of the food products, the growing of organic foods. I looked at the IF website. It is not listed as a member of the association or something with IF. And I also don't see, and my information is based on the IF website. I do not have a personal knowledge, but maybe if you write directly to IF, somebody will respond to you. Thank you.
So,
Thank you, sir.
right.
Yeah.
IF OAM is not so far associate member with IF that can guarantee, because all are 16 only. That list I have provided you. So if they are interested, they can apply. But as on date, it is not linked with the IAF.
Thank you, Jinaj. Thank you, sir. �‌kumar sir, thank you.
Yes, Patrick, you wanted to say something?
Yes, I just wanted to mention IFOAM and IOAS are scheme owners. Okay, so they're scheme owners for agriculture, organic agriculture standards, whereas IF-ILAC these are the worldwide cooperations of memberships of ABs, conformity assessment bodies, et cetera, et cetera. So if IFOAM, IOAS seeks recognition through IF-ILAC, then the accreditation bodies, the conformity assessment bodies that are part of the membership could support the adoption of the IFOAM scheme through that IAF multilateral recognition agreement. So thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Patrick. Thank you. The question is from Mr. 𝐓𝐫𝐨𝐻𝐿 Shankar. I think there are many standards and many certification requirements which companies have to get. Quite a few are overlapping, especially in the environment and social human resources space. Customers and investors ask for the certification they are familiar with. So in small or micro enterprises is spending a lot more effort, money and time in audits and assessments more than actual improvement. What is your thoughts on this? And she has also raised one more thing. Yeah, no, she has raised one more question that some of the international standards, example WRAP in textile space, have requirements which are not relevant or really significant in Indian context. Is there some sort of adaptation of these standards to Indian context? We find some consultants and auditors would like SMEs to implement to the exact requirements verbatim and not willing to clear on any adaptation.
To whom is this addressed to?
Anybody? It's open to, it's an open house question. Yeah, Mr. Patrick, please. Yeah.
Yeah, I can go ahead and take a shot at answering this. So you may remember from multiple of the presentations, you know, the whole point of conformity assessment and adoption of international standards is equivalence. So that standards in one country are the same as standards in another country. Implementation in one country is the same as implementation in another country. So by trying to create a different standard for implementation in India, for example, you're actually, it's counterproductive to the overall point of global conformity assessment, which is to bring everybody to the same level. So that's likely why you're not seeing these custom developed standards for each country, is because the real goal is to get all countries to adopt the same standards such that there's no difference in products and services from one country to the other. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Mr. Patrick. This question is from Jamyang Show. He says, please explain why an accredited testing lab needs to be officially recognized by a regulatory body, which creates additional burden to the trade. Anupamji.
No, I think Patrick also already answered this question. So while it is the objective of ILAC to ensure that regulators accept accredited laboratory certificates, unfortunately, regulators have their own mind, and many times they insist on having their own scheme. So it is both ways. One is some regulators will go on to assess the laboratory completely afresh, on their own criteria. And other regulators, what they normally would do, they'll accept the accreditation with the ILAC under the ILAC program, but may have some additional scheme requirements which they would like to assess. But I can give an example in India itself, because, for example, the BIS, Bureau of Indian Standards, it acknowledges NABL accredited laboratories, and that is the pre-qualification. But because BIS requires approval of the lab product-wise, all the product tests, and typically an accreditation body gives test method-wise or test area-wise. So therefore, for that particular reason, they have to make another assessment, but not necessarily a repetition of the NABL. So there could be reasons for doing that, and it could also be a matter of building confidence. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Anupamji. Thank you. And the last question is how to get certificate to qualify as a reputed accreditor by Shivaram Sundaramurthy Reddy.
There is nothing like an accreditor per se. It's either an accredited body or an assessor who works for an accreditation body. So I don't know exactly what
I
is
think
this.
maybe he's meaning the. I think he's meaning the assessor part. I think.
Yeah. So in that, so the accreditation bodies have their own method of taking assessors and training them and qualifying them. So I have not seen, at least in NABCB, that there is an open invitation to apply. It's more by reference. But if somebody is interested, they can always write to the accreditation board and send their resume. In due course of time, depending on their need for more resources, they may be able to, to look up at the person.
Thank you, Anupam. Dr. Rana, one question was there for you. One question is asking, I'm a doctorate text holder in healthcare management and also chairman Institute of Human Ethics Committee at Pondicherry with pharma marketing background. How I can add value? So that's a question.
Yeah, I read that, but I didn't understand that. What does it mean? Maybe he wanted to associate it with maybe us or some organization.
I guess
So he can look out for some advertisement from our side, like Anupam Saab just mentioned about how to get the assessors recruitment done. So we advertise based on qualifications and experience. So somebody fitting into can apply for that. We can sometimes we also use experts, for specific areas where we don't have trained assessors. So we can utilize the expertise under the supervision of a trained lead assessor. So there are opportunities. You can get in touch with us. Thank you.
So thank you. The questions, I think we have answered all the questions posted by the audience today. Thank you, panelists, for your valuable answers to all the queries raised by our participants. And now Thanksgiving is a part of any event. Whenever we host, we always express our happiness and gratitude to all the people whom we have invited. And on behalf of CCC, I wholeheartedly express my gratitude and sincere thanks to all of the eminent speakers today and also the panelists who are here, grace the occasion on the eve of World Accreditation Day 2023. And I'm really very happy from the bottom of my heart. I thank every one of you here and also the participants who are very patient right from the beginning, from the starting of the session till now, who are still online. And the video recording of this entire session will be available in our website. Also, the link will be there in our website, always available. The YouTube link, you can always access and see the sessions fully. And my sincere thanks to our mentor, Sri 𝐒𝐮𝐩𝐻𝐸 for really motivating and supporting in all aspects for engaging us in this type of informatory sessions. And we believe in CCC that knowledge is power, and sharing knowledge definitely it is going to help consultants like us in the years to come. Definitely we'll be adding more value in the field of accreditation and also the certifications, and also help the industry to face the challenges and facilitate them. And it's a great evening. And in fact, really from different time zones. You are all able to catch up. And really, I'm thankful to the people who have joined here from abroad, especially Vijay Kumar sir, Mr. Patrick, also from our friend from Egypt. I think they have taken a lot of pains. Different time zones matching up is not an easy thing because we know the pain. Thank you very much for all of you, and have a great evening or morning or afternoon, wherever the zone you are. And thank you, Rama ma'am, for being motivational factor for all of us leading our CCC as a president. And in fact, the 3 sessions we had, 3 webinars we had very successfully under the leadership of Rama ma'am. One is the World Environment Day, which was on June 5th, and also on June 7th we celebrated World Food Safety Day, and also now we are celebrating the June 9th World Accreditation Day. So we have been hosting a lot of seminars like this, and we are very happy to be a part of connecting factor with all the eminent speakers and also the consultants and also the industry sector. Thank you very much, all the panelists. Thank you. I'm not taking individual names here. I'm very happy to host this entire session. Thanks for giving me this opportunity for being the master of ceremony of all this. Thank you. Being the moderator.
Thank you very much, everyone.
See you all in the month of November. November Quality Month. We will invite you for the November Quality Month. For June month series and November Quality Month, these are the 2 milestone series from CCC. So even November Quality Month also will have multiple sessions, around 4 or 5 sessions like this. We celebrate throughout the month. So we'll invite you, keep inviting you. Thank you so much.
Thank you all. Thank you all.
Thanks, Sena.
Thank you all very much for coming.
Patrick,
Bye.
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 Take care.
Have a
Thank you,
wonderful
Patrick.
evening.
Thank you, Dr. Rana sir. Thank you, Anupam ji. Thank you, Madhuri. Thank you, Jena ji. Thank you. Thank you, Ankit ji. And thank you, Mr. Patrick. Thank you. Thank you, Vijay
Thank you,
Kumar ji.
everybody. Excellent time.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you all. Thank you.